We are now officially live. Here I am with my man Nik Hampshire, and we have something very special for you guys this week. Nick sent me over a list of the top 10 movies that must be seen. I gave them a review, so you don't have to. And now we're gonna sit down. Me and Nick are gonna talk about some the good, the bad, and the ugly of what we just saw, of what I've bore witness to over the last few weeks. But first, I'm going to hit you with this ad read. Because this is our very first time that I've ever been officially sponsored by anybody for anything in my entire life. And I want to do a fucking good job. So get ready. Are you tired of dealing with grumpy mortgage lenders who make the process of getting a home loan feel like a root canal? Well, look no further. Empire Mortgage is the cure for your lending woes. Michelle and her team have the perfect mix of positive attitude, great personality, and industry knowledge. That's right. They've got all the know-how to make sure you get the mortgage that's right for you. I can personally attest to the warm family environment Michelle brings to her business. Working with her is a real pleasure and makes you feel comfortable and confident in the loan that you get. Call them today and discover what sets them apart from the rest. Your new home will thank you. Finally, some quick legal stuff that I have to get out of the way. I have to read these official numbers to make this whole thing legal. NMLS number 1929987, licensed by the state of New Hampshire 23340 MBR, personal license number 148215, equal housing opportunity, and that is it. That's the end of the ad. Thank you so much, Empire Mortgage. We really appreciate you. And now, without further ado, my homie Nick. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm great, Nick. How are you? A couple of Nicks, you know?
I'm doing wonderful. Were you super impressed with my ad, right? The ad I wrote?
Dude, I thought you were an old hand at it, man.
Dude, Chat GPT is coming through. Saving the day for me.
Absolutely.
So, really, so I've known you for fucking ever, it feels like.
Sure.
All the way back when you were just a normal, not famous dude living in New Hampshire.
Famous, yeah, okay.
And, one thing I can say about you is that you always fucked with movies. You were always a huge movie buff.
That's true.
Huge TV dude, huge, pop culture enthusiast and just lover of everything that, was being created and put out.
All fair.
From the arts to, I feel like, honestly, it was a conversation with you that made me was the first time I really viewed video games as an art form and not just like a fucking, I don't know, something that wasn't an art, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, dude. Video games are like the culmination of art, man. That's where it's the cross-section of art, really.
Yeah.
Multimedia.
No, you definitely, you convinced me, and it was a conversation we had late one night in New Hampshire that fucking did it for me. So you've been spreading your message for quite a long time.
Hell yeah,
and
man.
So I knew you were the perfect person to bring some culture to my fucking uncultured life. When you have kids, it's not always easy to get out to see the latest movies or see the most important movies. So I reached out to Nick and asked him to send me over a list of 10 movies that he felt needed to be seen by everybody. I don't know if that's how I worded it, but for the sake of the story, that's how I'm going to say I worded it. And he hit me with only 2 of these movies I had seen. I had not seen the other 8, and the one of them I completely forgot about. So, should we give them the movies all at once, you think, or should we just let it unravel as it happens?
Let's unravel.
Okay.
Let's unravel. Let's build some suspense.
All right. So the number 10 movie on the list,
So least favorite.
My least favorite movie, and I actually was the movie I was most excited about because the description of it was off the chain. It sounded like it was going to be so awesome, and then I watched it and I was so disappointed in the whole thing, and that is a movie by the name of Climax. It started off. It's like mostly in French, and it's like I've got a very French theater vibe, like French film vibe. And it's about Oh, well, why don't you tell us what it's about, Nick?
It's about an experience, my man. It is, it's a French film about a dance studio that is celebrating from after a performance or in preparing a performance or whatever. And somebody spikes the beverage, I believe, and they all have quite a trippy evening.
Yeah.
A less than ideal one, we'll say.
You could say that. You could definitely say that. So Nick is used to not giving out spoilers, but I'm telling you right now, this is going to be a spoiler-heavy episode. So Nick, don't be shy to fucking really just lay it on him. So
all right.
we open up. It starts off with this really interesting thing that was like a French cinema thing where they ran all the end credits in the beginning, which I thought was really cool. It was like kind of a classic thing that, and so like this whole movie kind of had, to me, it kind of had like a student art, like a student film like feel to it. Like it didn't feel like it was like a big budget movie. It felt very experimental and maybe like something like a really like excited college kid would kind of like put together with his friends. And so we come in and the dance scenes, were fucking cool. Like that whole dance in the beginning, that whole dance montage in the beginning, very cool. Yep. And also, like, I see now that like I've seen a bunch of those dances being used in like various like TikTok, internet like things, which I had never noticed them before. So I don't know if that's just like those are just popular dances, or if that's like just the film affected more people than I realized.
I feel like the film probably. I don't remember any like distinctive dance moves or dances that film started that were then mimicked later. I may be wrong though. I'm not super affiliated or knowledgeable about about dances in general or TikTok. To be honest,
there's one in particular I keep seeing where like they're kind of like squatted down and bouncing, and then like they kind of like do like this like fall at the end and lay flat on the ground.
Oh, the dead fall. Yeah, dead
and
fall. I do know that one. Yeah.
Is that like from that movie, or was that?
No. That's been around for a long time. That's part of like Vogue culture, like the whole striker pose. If you ever watch the show Pose, they get into a lot of that stuff. So it's very much in like the drag scene or trans, I believe, like, or just that like big show like houses, and they have big dance competitions. I'm probably butchering the information to be honest, because again, that's not exactly my scene, but this is the extent of it. Watch Pose. That's the best thing I can say. Watch Pose. Right. It's really good.
Okay, show. Well, you didn't put it on the list, my man. I'm sorry, but this is
it's a show.
This tapped me out as far as being able to consume for a while. So dance in the beginning, super cool. I was like, it was kind of long. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I mean, anything's gonna feel long. That thing could have been 10 minutes, and it would have been long.
It was a long dance. It was a long dance sequence for someone who doesn't watch a lot of dance sequences. And then it sort of breaks up, and they all kind of like. I think that was like their final rehearsal before the show. I think it was like a dry run on the rehearsal, and then they break. And keep in mind that most of the movie's in French, or I think it's mostly French. So like you're reading the subtitles, but it's also like very graphically heavy, so it's easy to miss stuff because like you're trying to like super bright colors, like all the makings of a movie I would love, honestly. Like my ADHD mind was fucking just like eating it up. You know what I mean? I was loving it.
Absolutely.
And then I don't know what the fuck happened, but like so. Everything's going good. I felt like it kind of dragged itself to the point where they fucking get dosed. With someone spikes the fucking thing with LSD. And there's a couple of like hints of that's going to come up because they're talking about LSD a couple times in the movie. In the beginning interviews, they're kind of talking about it. And then, actually, that opening scene with the interviews, I really liked that a lot. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, agreed.
I thought that was a cool way to introduce the characters and also give you like a really nice like they don't have to sprinkle shit in. It's just like a nice info dump, but they did it in such a way that was very easy to consume.
Dump, yeah. I feel you.
So then they spike it, and then everything just fucking goes to shit. Like you find out that like I don't even know how to describe it really. It's like it's very. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they did the whole thing in one shot, right?
Not the whole thing, but it is shot to look and very much feel like that, which definitely gives it that like things are gonna feel longer because of that too. Like it's very much it's not an easy film to watch. Like to be honest, when you kind of asked, I think you asked for like my top 10 favorite films, which is like a tough decision to pin down. And honestly, some of my favorite films aren't even like I like challenging films and I like to discuss challenging films with people. So if you like, Shawshank would honestly be one of my favorite, Shawshank Redemption, but everybody's seen it and you watch it, you're going to love it. That's easy, So I purposely kind of picked a couple that were like a little harder to watch.
Yeah.
For the sake of like discussion and stuff. So this is definitely a film that I think is a fun one to discuss and experience because it is very like, it's doing a lot of things to give you the experience of what's going on. And that experience is not a pleasurable one. So
no, it is not.
It's a challenging film. It's a challenging film.
So there's obviously, I did think that so there is a scene where a little boy, the director's like, child, the director of the play's child, is in, and they go to bed, but then they come back out and they drink the punch, and so now they're dosed, and they like lock him in a closet, and I did feel like they leaned heavily on that for like emotional, like because it's so easy to leverage little kids for emotional. And I did just have a baby. So, like, that might be a fucking something that's overly effective. But I felt like they really leveraged that child. The child had no point except to be leveraged emotionally. Like, I kind of felt like the child was kind of a dead character other than, like, it drank this LSD and now it's, like, this emotional, like, anchor they can crank on you with.
Yeah, I mean, I think, personally, like, the different characters have kind of different stages in life, you know what I mean? Like some of them are party crazy, some of them are just there for the dance, some of them are clearly trying to do LSD, some of them are parents, So, I mean, I definitely think part of having that character there was to drive the emotional, adrenaline up way high, and like the emotional investment rather. But yeah, varying mileage on that, I suppose. But it definitely, I don't know, you're feeling for that kid. That whole scenario is just like. It's rough. It's a rough ride. I'm not gonna lie. Like, really,
dude.
Like this film is actually not a favorite movie of mine, and honestly, I would probably put it at the bottom of this list of 10 as well, if I was you. So not surprising. But it is, like I said, fun's not even a good word. It's an interesting movie to have somebody watch, especially if they're like. Honestly, I feel like this is a pretty challenging movie, even for those that are like film buffs, like art house film buffs. Anyway, it's already like a difficult film because honestly, it's not even a favorite of mine. But for somebody who may not get out to see a lot of these kind of art house type films, yeah, it's a tough one. So I was curious. I was interested to see how you would respond to it, especially because you were so excited to see it.
Dude, the fucking description is like, it's awesome. I was actually just looking it up, but I couldn't find it in like the 3 seconds that I was taking. But dude, the description is like a fucking crazy party, like full of LSD and like sex and all this shit, and I was like, this is gonna be fucking great. And then it was just like a nightmare. It was like of all of these movies, like it was almost like a horror film. The way it fucking
it really is.
Like
it absolutely is.
Definitely, like, as a piece of art, it definitely takes you through all the emotions. My favorite part was the girl who was like pregnant, so she hadn't drank at all, but then she's still fucking going crazy.
Yeah.
And like what I like about that is like, as someone who doesn't drink, I don't know about you, but like when you go to a party, like, so anyway, Nik Hampshire doesn't drink. We're like the last two straight edge people to ever exist. So fucking, as someone who's like went to a lot of parties, did a lot of crazy shit, like, that like the way everybody else is acting is like, it is infectious. Like, even if you're not fucking drinking or whatever, like, you feel like that buzz, that energy of like the room, and it makes it. And so she kind of was like, she stabs herself and shit, and like she goes like real crazy.
Yeah.
But I could feel for her. I could feel for her because I was like, that's like just eating up all that other energy from the room.
For sure. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to really appreciate about the film. I mean, honestly, just the experience itself, even though it's not a pleasurable one, is still, we're borderline almost, makes me think of like Hellraiser, right? It's like that person who's like, pleasure is no longer enough for me. I need to experience more, right? It's like that. It's like you're watching movies. Actually, it reminds me of a really interesting point my dad made one time. And I was like, yo, Dad, have you seen this movie called Rabbit Hole? He's like, no, what is it about? And I was like, oh, it's about these parents whose child gets hit by a car and dies, and they're trying to figure out how to move on from that. Like the mom wants to move on and like forgive the kid that did it because it was genuinely an accident and like get rid of all the stuff in the room, and the dad wants to preserve everything as it is in the room, and they're just dealing with it differently, and they're like, going through it, and they're just not like their marriage is falling apart because of this already sad thing is now resulting in more sadness. And my dad was like, "Why would you want to watch that?" And I was like, I don't know, but it's interesting. It's like, it's just like peeks into humanity, like not all movies are meant to be happy or good, or like, not all characters are meant to be like I did have Uncut Gems on this list before I found out that Nick had already seen it. Because that's another challenging one that a lot of people find that is not a particularly like fun movie. It's very anxiety inducing. And the protagonist is a very unlikable character, and so that throws a lot of people like, oh, I fucking hate him. I'm like, you're supposed to though. Like there's some joy to be had, or some, what's the better word, fulfillment, I guess, in like exploring these sort of like how much a film can make you feel, even more than just the happy stuff. Like it's easy to give you like the happiness, I guess, the serotonin, like the happy endings. It's something else to like find new avenues of like the human condition and ways it can go. And I think this film does that in a really cool way with like the dancing is all really well done. I really like the production value, like the coloring, the color grading, and cinematography is super crazy with how like even the camera movement and how it like flips and shit like that. Like, and again, just like that extra mile to make it look like a oneer or like a one take. Just all very cool to give you this immersive experience, which as I kind of noticed, which I didn't notice before giving to you, a lot of the films that I do really like and like to recommend are movies that are very kind of experience based. They're meant to not just you watching, you're like engaging with it. It's really like putting you in a position of the characters in the movie, kind of.
What did you think about actually speaking to what you were saying about like not needing to like characters, I do think that we are caught in like this thing currently where like I feel like movies are afraid to do something weird or do something different, to experiment with those things, to do a sad ending. And I think for me, like I prefer movies to actually like I prefer movies with a sad ending. I feel like it's harder to pull off. And so when you can do it and you do it right, like I feel like it tells a better story. Like I feel like you have to work harder to tell the story to pull off a sad ending than you do to pull off a happy ending where everything works out great.
Well, I think that you're right. I think the thing about pulling it off too is it's like I don't think it's necessarily harder to write a sad ending, but to write a sad ending that people still like
Right.
is the tricky part. Because if like you end on a bummer, you're probably not going to like the movie, right? But if you can end the movie in a sad note, but the movie's still good, or you still liked it, then you're right. That is a more challenging feat, and I think that's some of the stuff that I dig as well.
Well, I think it you may not even have to like I don't know if liking is the word, but like you have to like the character enough to care. That this ending was sad. Like you're not if you don't care about the character and there's a sad ending, you're gonna be like meh. But like I feel like all the other elements kind of have to fall into place to make that fucking sad ending hit. And so I feel like it just lends itself to telling a better story all the way up the chain. And I think
Yeah, it depends on.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it depends on the movie. I was just gonna say I think it depends on the movie because like there are some times that I do think that like the happy ending is worthwhile, and like depending on how it goes, like some of the movies on our list have a happy ending, and I think that was the better way to go than the sad one,
Yeah,
which we'll get to later.
that's
but.
true. I guess. I mean, I think I just prefer. One thing I hate is like leaving the door open for a sequel. I really despise that. Like if a movie is written as like a one-off thing and then it's left open at the end because they're like, well, if people don't hate it, maybe we'll fucking write a sequel. Like I really like the final. Like I always tell my wife, like every movie would be better if like the main character just died at the end, because like it like puts that nail in the, it's like nail in the coffin, no pun intended. But like it like creates that finality, which I like.
Well, there's like, I mean, I can definitely appreciate the desire to have that finality, but I think that I'm going to butcher this quote or whatever, or concept even, but I read something somewhere once that was like a good story does not kind of give you the beginning to end of like a character's whole life, whatever. It really just shows you like an arc of where like they leave you off, where the character could continue on to have other adventures that like you're just not privy to. You know what I mean? And so I think that like I like that idea where you're seeing the relevant part of their story, but they will continue on where you can like assume, like the end of what is that movie? Good Will Hunting. You've seen that?
Yep. So see,
Great ending.
great ending, great ending. But you don't feel like that movie, the way it's done, that is a finality. There is a finality to that. Like you couldn't do like a Good Will Hunting 2. You know what I mean? I hope they tried to do a Good Will Hunting 2 actually.
Well, there's a funny are you a Jay and Silent Bob fan?
Yeah.
So in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, the movie, they're working on, or they come across the set for Good Will Hunting 2.
Oh yeah, that's right.
What is it called? Good Will Hunting 2, Hunting Harder or something? Damn, I can't remember. It'll come to me. But yeah, and so they do a whole thing, and it was pretty funny. It's funny little gag.
But yeah, no. So I definitely think that this movie was a challenge. It was on the bottom of my list just because I think it pulled such. I don't feel like the back of the box description did an accurate job of like giving you a glimpse into what this fucking movie was about. Like I thought it was gonna almost be like a fucking 80s like rom-com or something. I don't know. Like I thought it was gonna be like a comedy, or like a party movie, not a fucking not a horror movie.
That makes me even happier because, as you mentioned earlier, I hate that you look up spoilers for movies. So it makes me happy that your curiosity like betrayed you here rather than setting you up to know what you were in for. It totally like diverted your expectations.
I will tell you, I watched all of these the way that you intended me to, and I did not look up any spoilers for any of these movies beforehand. I did look up some stuff after the fact, but I did not look up any.
And that's the way it should be. Like I was, for those watching on anything, it drives me. I love movies. I love TV, and honestly, like even people like Nick has literally been like, I do not care. I actively look up spoilers. Can you tell me the spoiler for this? And I'll be like, no, like because I hope even if I like or if I don't tell you, you're still hopefully there's a chance you will just watch it and not look up the spoiler because I just love the journey that good storytelling puts you on, and so to like know it before you've watched it, as explained to Nick, I'm like, that's like going to a magic show and like looking up how they do all the tricks and then watching the magic show. You're like, oh, I know what you're gonna do and how you did it, so I don't care. As opposed to like watching the magic show, being amazed, and then researching after and be like, oh, that's how they did that. Then it informs the feeling you already had.
So here's the thing. So just for anybody who doesn't know, I always look up spoilers to movies, TV shows, everything. I hate fucking being surprised in a movie theater. I hate fucking being surprised because like movies aren't fucking simple anymore. And like they're also fucking, and like in every fucking movie it's like, oh, did you notice in fucking Act 1 when like she said this like fucking one line that if you didn't catch, like fucking doesn't, like then the whole ending doesn't make sense. Like they fucking do that shit to me all the time. And frankly, I don't have fucking time like to fucking dissect movies like this.
That's why you rewatch, because then it's like a whole new experience. Like you watch it the first time and you get to the end, and if you didn't pick it up, you're like, dude, whoa, where did that ending come from? And then you go back and you rewatch, and you're like, oh shit, I see all that stuff.
I barely have time to watch a movie the first time. Barely have time to watch a movie the first time. You have no idea. I've completely neglected my family to watch these 10 films in the last fucking 2 weeks.
Well worth it. For Climax.
Yeah, for Climax. They were locked in the basement while I was watching Climax. Is there anything else you want to bring up about Climax? You want to keep going on?
Pretty much covered that. If you check out that dude's, the director's name is no, I don't know if it's No or Noe. I always forget how they Gaspar Noe or No. I can't remember. But all his films are equally as challenging. So watch at your own risk. Have you ever seen Enter the Void? That was a pretty popular one that got around.
It sounds familiar. I don't think I saw it though.
It's equally. It's challenging as well. Climax probably a little more so because it's just so like in your face. It's like every moment of that movie is like making you feel uncomfortable. Yeah. Whereas Enter the Void
yes, it does.
Has a bit more of a narrative that is, I mean, it's equally as awful and terrible, but at least has like a bit more of a narrative. So it's not like the whole movie making you feel like that. Whereas this movie, the whole movie.
Actually, now that you say narrative, like I do think that's one of the weird things about that movie is like it felt a lot more like a bunch of vignettes than it felt like like a full movie. Like, cause all the characters kind of break off into their own groups. And then there's like a bunch of scenes that are all happening at the same time, but they're all like self-contained. So it felt more like a series of like vignettes than it did a cohesive story, even though they do close out the story by like showing you who doused the fucking thing. One thing I really liked that they did was in the very beginning they lock out a guy who they think did the dosing. They like lock him outside, and the last scene of the movie where the chick's like running through the snow, and then like you just see like she trips over his body that's just like frozen to death outside. And I don't know, for some reason I thought that was really like a really nice touch that it did. I really liked that.
Hell yeah, man! I mean, there's no denying that my man knows how to make a movie. So like, if you liked it or not, it's still a good movie. Like it's a well-made movie.
It is a well-made movie.
So that's.
And it definitely did a good. And like I liked, like I said, I liked the coloring. I liked the cinematography, like you were saying. Really enjoyed all of that. Just the whole, but then the overarching everything else, it was not for me.
Fair.
So next up on the list, we have a movie about nothing and everything. It is a movie about a killer tire that has gained sentience through no explanation, and then just goes on a
and pyrokinesis.
Yeah, and not
forget sentience and pyro.
Yeah, no. What is it? No, it's not pyrokinesis. That's fire. This thing can explode stuff.
I mean, that's what he does. He explodes it.
Yeah, is it pyro?
I mean, I guess.
I remember.
I think you would still call it pyro.
Maybe, I don't know. Anyways, fine. Pyrokinesis. I'm fine with that. So fucking, it's a tire that like, and like the whole.
I guess maybe it would be like just telekinesis.
They use
maybe.
another word.
Anyway.
I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, you're right, but I can't remember either. But
but the whole movie is basically like they basically say right in the beginning that the whole movie is about how movies just like create stuff from nothing, and like there doesn't really need to be any logic behind what's happening, and they do this all the time, and then it just kind of goes on to like do that throughout the whole movie and like kind of like point it out. Is that a fair description? Which they do not allude to at all in the box back.
Yeah, no, the description is for sure awful, for sure. It's so funny. Like the film is absolutely like okay. The synopsis is basically the first half of what Nick just said, which is like it's like a tire gains sentience and goes on a killing spree. That's the picture of the movie. The movie's not really about that.
Not
all.
even.
Like, I mean, that does happen in the movie.
It does happen, but it is not at all what the movie is about.
Like that. Like if that's the movie, like that's the train track of the movie. But like the train is the movie, and that the train is not about that.
Not even close. And then even all of the I went back and looked at like all the movie posters, all the trailers, like it's all geared up as like a horror movie. And I think that was like my first problem with it is that like horror I think that like I keep snorting on Kit, sorry about that. It's very stuffy here in my basement. My first kind of issue with it is like I felt like they were kind of like almost like spoofing or parodying like a horror film, but like horror films are already generally so like over the top outrageous that like you can't really like Scary Movie I feel like is a fair parody of horror movies, but like I don't feel as though the message is as powerful as if you like parody something like a drama or something. You know what I mean? Because horror movies are like by design over the top, like they're meant to push the limits, and so it pushing the limits in a ridiculous way. Is it really any more ridiculous than any other horror movie? Not really.
I mean, I think it is a little bit, but also I don't think that like the main point or focus of this movie is parodying horror. Even that is like a layer, but not the train. If you will.
That's fair.
To me, the main focus of this movie, like the message or like its reason for being made, in my opinion, is really the dynamic between the audience that's watching the movie and honestly you, the audience, watching the audience watch the movie, right? So yeah, it's meta as fuck. I would absolutely understand anybody who calls it pretentious. I would agree to a degree. Because it is very much about like the relationship of viewership on media and like, what you expect to see, how you feel about it, like the way that, like the symbolism of the director or whatever, like poisoning the people who are trying to watch the movie and making all these demands and everything like that. And so it's
what was up with that?
A commentary on
the fuck was up with that?
Well, like I said, I think that there's this whole idea of like, do you make movies for the audience? You make it for yourself? Like Like, do you owe like does the director owe the audience anything? Because obviously, if you're watching the movie, right, all these people are so entitled. They're like, oh, this better be good, or there better be a good ending, or oh, you better feed us, blah blah blah. And so there's just this like I think demand of an audience that like, oh, if I'm paying my money to see your movie, it better be good. Oh, it's ass, it sucks, blah blah. And oh, I didn't get why that happened or anything like that. And he's basically like, dude, I don't give a fuck about any of that shit. You're the viewer, don't care. I'm gonna fucking poison you. Like, I don't care. You're dead. Like so much so that like literally, remember like at the end, they think that the movie's over, and so they're like taking their stuff off. Like the sheriff, whatever, is like, we're all actors, right? He totally breaks character. But the movie's still going because one of the guys is like, oh fuck, we gotta keep doing it for this guy, So really, it's about just the commentary on movies, and I think it is really he's taking the piss a little bit with like what you're pulling out of it. Like I'm sure he has his exact idea of what he's pulling out of it, like what did have meaning and what was just because, you know what I mean? No reason, as they say. So yeah, I think it's really kind of a movie of what you make of it. I think as long as you're somewhere around the idea of like, it's about the audience watching the movie and the relationship of creator with the audience. I think that's like the main piece of the pie. That's the train of the movie. The horror, okay, actually, let's round this metaphor out. Okay, we'll say the train tracks is the horror movie, right? We'll say the train car itself is the parody of the horror genre, but then the people on the car, like the actual what you're watching for, is the people watching the movie.
That's a good description. Well, I like in the beginning, the first scene is like there's like a cop car and it's driving, it's just knocking over a bunch of chairs. And it's like this super fucking long scene of like this car just rolling around, knocking over chairs. There's like 10 chairs it knocks over. Like just one, I'm pretty sure it's just one long cut. I don't even think and then like he just gets out.
No, it is.
He just gets out and he's just like,
yeah.
He gets out of the trunk and he's like, I didn't do that for any reason. Nothing that happens in movies has any reason to it. He's like, why was E.T. brown? No reason. It's like, there's no reason for E.T. to be brown, and I just ran these trucks, and that's like, and then like the camera turns, and that's when you realize that there's another audience there that was actually watching this fucking take place.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
and it's funny because like some of the things that he mentions do happen for a reason. Like one of his like, why don't you ever see people on TV go to the bathroom, or like people in movies go to the bathroom? It's like, obviously there is a reason. So even that, it's like some of the things he's saying are valid and some of them are not, So it's a really funny way of, are you familiar with the term lampshading?
No.
So it's a writing device where people like, if you call attention to it, then it's okay to do it. Or, you know what I mean? Like you're calling it out, so it's fine,
Yep.
And so you could argue this is like extreme lampshading where he's basically like, no reason. So now anything that you watch the movie, you'd be like, why did that happen? Oh, I guess no reason. Like, and you could call that lazy. A lot like lampshading is typically seen as like a lazy man's writing. Like you could have done it better, but instead you're just like, you're happy with it being lazy, so you're just going to draw attention to it. That way, anybody who else tries to call attention to it, it's like, yeah, I already know. So, it's like when you like make fun of yourself before somebody else can in hopes that like it's cool.
Gotcha. All right.
It's like, hey, I'm an asshole. I know, but here's my opinion. It's like, no, you can just not be an asshole.
Unfortunately, they can't.
Make it better.
They can't do that. They can't not be an asshole. Yeah, no, I think I like at the end. So like the last, well, not really the last scene, but one of the last scenes is they're fucking like they have this doll strapped to a bomb, and like the fucking like this actress who doesn't even have a name, like she has no name, and fucking you've seen her like 2 other times, and she's somehow also the love interest of this tire, and he's like stalking her. And like one thing I will say is, dude, they fucking gave life to this tire. Like they were able. This tire was like so fucking cool. Best actor of the fucking year. Like legit, it like there was this scene where it was like after it had like done its first like murder, and it was like running through the fucking desert, and like it was like very like lackadaisical and like super carefree. It was like, and like, dude, what a good job of fucking making that.
Dude, all practical too.
Yeah, no, even
which is crazy.
That is crazy. Like, what was the budget for that movie? Do you know?
Not much. I'm pretty sure.
I wouldn't think so. I would hope not.
Honestly, even just the first scenes of it becoming awake or alive. It was like really beautiful. Like it's really well shot. I adore the visuals of this movie. An actual funny personal story to add to that. I was on my way out to the desert to shoot uh, photography with some friends of mine. On our way to the spot we were trying to get to, this like barn or something was like heavily on fire, and so they were doing a crazy detour. And so we had to go, like, dude, you can see this shit from way away. Like, it's not like a little fire. This shit was uplifting. And so we're like, okay, so we had to take this detour. So we're going down this other side road, and we passed this fucking like what appears to be abandoned gas station and like shop, whatever, and motel. And I'm like, dude, this place looks sick. It has a super retro vibe. I'm like, damn, this looks so dope. It almost looks familiar. So we stopped. I got a bunch of really awesome photos there. Like, it looks super high budget because of like just how great this place was, whatever. And then I was rewatching Rubber, and it's the set. The set is out there. I like stumbled across it on accident. I was like, dude, this is amazing.
That is amazing.
So yeah, I have some really cool pictures from there.
That's fucking awesome.
But yeah, 800,000, so less than $1 million to make that.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and it looks
the tire
amazing.
fucking really seemed like it was alive. And also they leaned heavily on like a lot of tropes, like in music, like the tire rolls up, sees this fucking the only other actress in the whole fucking movie, and like so you know that they're in love because of the music and the way they do it. So like you know that she's immediately becomes his love interest. So I thought they did a good job, and like considering like the storytelling, like the minimal storytelling they did for the actual story, I thought they did a good job. It just wasn't I feel like I liked it more when I was more pretentious. And like this time around it was just too heavy. It was just too heavy.
See, but to me that's almost like the opposite take for it. It's like, yes, there's a lot to like pick apart, analyze, but also it's just so absurd and fun that like, yeah, you can I guess you can analyze it to the point that you no longer care anymore. Like even myself, again, like, you know, I have things I can pull from it that I think it's trying to say and do. But like trying to, like, I would never, I guess, argue with somebody about this movie because there's so many contrarian points and things you can pull out of it. That's like, dude, just have fun. Like if you like to analyze movies, there's a ton to analyze here and have fun with. If you just like to watch, then it's a funny fucking random ass silly movie that is really well shot. You know.
One thing
so yeah, to me, like,
go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, to me, it can offer kind of whatever it is you're looking for. If you're looking for something more cerebral to bite into, then there's stuff there for you. But if you're just looking for a fun, like the slasher part and the comedy of it and everything, then that's fun too. So if you're somebody that needs to know what something was about for sure and have like that kind of like solid facts about it, then it's probably not for you. Or if you don't have like that kind of absurdist kind of sense of humor, this is definitely not for you.
One thing I do want to say is that even though a couple of these movies I didn't like they weren't for me, I really appreciate when people do something different. Like, even if it's not for me, like, I'm a big fan of people, like, breaking molds and doing things differently. And so I will say every one of these movies did that. And, like, I really appreciate that they were able to do that in, like, what I feel is, you know, right now a creative kind of... Even though now is, like, the time where creativity is, like, more monetizable, more, like, readily available, like, easier to fucking break into than... Like, easier to break into than ever before. Like, I feel like we end up in, like, almost on, like... a fucking like Stairmaster of like the same 7 fucking videos and movies. So like anytime I see people doing something different, I really appreciate it. So Climax,
and I definitely,
even though I didn't like it, like I appreciate what they were trying to do.
Honestly, that's kind of the same where I am on it too. Like I didn't really love it, but I, like you said, I really appreciated the artistry there and how crazy it was. So.
One thing I really loved about the Rubber movie though was, and I feel like was just like such a fucking release was. At the end, so they're trying to fucking convince this fucking tire to go up to this doll and get it blown up. And then eventually the sheriff is just like, you know what, fuck,
what a great sentence.
Fuck this, and just like goes in, and you just hear like all the shots, and like how many times have you watched like a Chucky movie and been like I would just fucking blow that motherfucker away, you know what I mean? Like why doesn't that?
You can just go punt that fucker across the road.
Like, and so I really fucking love the way that he kind of ended with that. That little fucking move where he just like kicked out the door and you just hear like all these blasts and then he just fucking drags out the tires and throws it at the fucking last guy watching. And then, oh no, the movie's not over. He possessed a tricycle now. He possessed a tricycle now.
Oh,
so
I love it.
It's a movie. It's a movie that you know, it's I would watch it. I wouldn't watch it again, but I'm glad I watched it the second time. It was not too bad.
Sure. Nice.
Anything else you want to talk about on that one?
I would recommend everyone watch it at least once. It's worthwhile.
It is worthwhile. I
I,
would.
I would say it's definitely not one of those movies that's better with like friends because like the just your commentary on it. It's just such a silly, funny movie that like if you're sitting there by yourself, like you'll get a little chuckle here or whatever. But if you got some buddies, whatever, to like make fun of it while you're watching it, it's a really fun movie.
See, actually, I disagree with that. I think that you should watch it by yourself, but then talk about it afterward. Because, like,
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
feel like this, like, if you and me had been watching this at the same time, I would not have shut the fuck up the whole time. I would have missed most of that movie.
But that's like kind of, I mean, again, I think that you can watch this movie to like analyze it, but I think it's a really fun movie to like, even if you're missing stuff, like everything that you're still getting is still super funny and
There's
fun.
really only like seven
So I think
seven things you need to see in the whole movie to like understand what's
yeah,
going
right, yeah,
on.
exactly.
Yeah, no, that's true. It probably depends on what you're trying to get out of it, but either way, definitely worth checking out at least once. This was actually the movie
yeah.
that I had seen before and then just completely forgot about like the whole thing. I watched it probably right when it first came out, and then cause like I know I watched it. I remember the fucking tire like blowing up the dude's head. I remember the tire like running over, like getting pissed at the glass bottle, which was super funny. A super funny scene again with like the ability to make the tire emotional. Like
Dude, so cool.
he rolls over the tire and he rolls over this bottle and gets pissed that it like doesn't crunch the same way everything else he rolled over. But
Yeah, because he was rolling over a couple other things before and it hit a crunch, and then he finally gets to a glass bottle and it's not crunching, and he's like, "You can like to be clear, if for anybody has no idea what we're talking about, this is not a CGI tire. It's not like they're not putting eyes on this
No.
thing. It's literally just a fucking
Just
tire,
a tire.
a car tire.
that some guy
And
off
all the
screen
emotion-
is just like rolling
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah, because they're basically cutting like most of the shots of the tire are like this. And so like they're like, so there's just like a hand or a stick just off screen that's just like turning it slightly to like emote, and it's so fucking funny. And then the scenes when it's actually rolling, they actually have an RC car inside the tire.
Oh fuck, is that how they did it? Dude, that's so
Yeah.
smart.
I know.
Dude, what the fuck? I can't believe
So cool.
I can't believe it even cost $800,000 to make that movie, to be honest with you.
So good.
Someone was laundering some of that. All right. So the next movie I went back and forth on whether or not like Rubber and this movie, I had a hard time placing them. Like I wanted to, like originally when I sent Nick the list, this movie was below Rubber, and then I just recently bumped it up over. But now after that conversation we just had, I think I'm gonna bump it back down. So Mother, with an exclamation point, but a lowercase m. This movie is a fucking. So like, this thing opens up and you have no fucking like it's something is not fucking right. Like just like the whole thing doesn't really make any sense, and like also just the feel is very dreamlike and fucking kind of weird, and like there's something bigger going on, but you can't quite place it right away. At least I couldn't. And then after a little bit, you're like, oh, it's the fucking Bible. So, like,
Yeah.
he basically took, like, the story of the Bible and then added the character of Mother Earth into it. And then fucking, like, told this tale, in a good, like, he did a good job, or they did a good job. But they do it in a, where, like, you realize that the Bible, first you realize what a, like, vain dick God is, like, in the Bible. And then like you also realize like how people have like sort of turned away from like the Mother Earth. Like it's definitely got a very hippie vibe, like a very hippie message to it. Like you turn away from the Mother Earth to praise this God who's essentially just like a narcissistic douchebag.
Yeah.
And so it's a message. It's a fucking hell of a message. And it's very cool to watch, but if you're going and you're like, I want to watch a movie that has like a fucking story to it that is like reasonably like makes sense and is not really too over the top, like this is not the fucking one. So like I caught on to that this was a Bible story when like a brother kills another brother, and I was like, oh, that's a lot like Cain and Abel. And then I was like, oh fuck. And then like thinking back and I'm like, oh, it's all there. So then, like, moving forward from that, I was like, okay, you were able to kind of follow the Bible. But, like, so it's basically God is like a poet, and he wrote a book. And then Adam and Eve come in as like a doctor and a fucking and like God is just super obsessed with like how much they love him. And fucking that's like basically like the main story of the whole thing is God just like keeps wanting to be fucking and like his super hot wife played by fucking Jennifer Lawrence is just keeps getting ignored and fucking like shit on. Like everybody's super rude to her. And like when I first messaged Nick after watching like the first third of this movie, and I was like, this is just like a horror movie for our generation because it's just like rude guests. It's just like rude guests that won't leave and that are just like shitty to have around, and you can't like be rude back to them. So it's like almost like she's like a server at a restaurant, and everybody else is like a fucking Karen, and they're just fucking bashing. She keeps like asking them not to do stuff, and they're just like, nah, fuck it, we're gonna do it anyways. And then fucking her husband is just like on their side, and he's like, no, it's fine. Like, so the whole thing, that whole part is super stressful, and then fucking then it gets to this scene where like, so it's like. So there's like a whole great flood that takes place in the fucking house, and it gets rid of everybody. Everybody leaves, and then they come back after his new book after she gets pregnant and fucking but everybody comes back, and this is like supposed to be like all the masses gathering to fucking celebrate God and Jesus, and like this is representative of like Moses leading the Jews out of Egypt and all like this is like the end of the Old Testament coming into the New Testament. And so we have like you have all the golden calf kind of representation, like the false idols and false gods, and you have like all the sins of man. But like this is all taking place in someone's house. Like a minute ago, this was a party, and so you're watching it and you're just like, what the fuck is going on? Like if you didn't pick up that this was a biblical thing, you're like, what the fuck is happening right now? Like how did we go from fucking this was a dinner party to like there's like human trafficking, and like she's got a gun to her head. She's like this pregnant chick. The cops come in and they're fucking like shooting everybody, which isn't like unrealistic. But like the whole thing is just like, if you didn't realize that this was a Bible story and you fucking are watching this shit, you're like, what the fuck is going on? And then I will say there was about 5 minutes I had to skip because they fucking eat this baby. Which like
they tear him apart.
Yeah, they
like literally dismember him.
Yeah, they fucking like steal so when I was watching it, there's like this part where they like take the baby from Jennifer Lawrence, and I'm fucking like sitting there feeding my daughter who's 6 months old, and my fucking heartbeat is like boom 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 boom, and I start seeing it and I'm like, nope, fucking fast forward to that. So then I get to this fucking, and then like as it's fast forward and I see what's going on. And then just a frame of fucking like this baby getting ripped apart. And I was like, I'm fucking so glad I fucking skipped that. So I wasn't able to watch that. But I read up afterward that they eat the baby. It's supposed to be Jesus. It's like a real life, or like a, I don't know what the word is, but
the body of Christ.
Yeah, the body of Christ and the drinking of his blood. And yeah, so fucking what is your take on this fucking movie, Nick?
I mean, you pretty much chopped it up pretty well. Again, this is one of those experience movies, right? It's like, so for starters, as you said, it is definitely it completely foregoes narrative in place of metaphor. And so you're right. Like you want like the way that the story is progressing doesn't make sense as far as like a narrative speaking. Like it's not really like a movie in that sense. It's just this, it's like a metaphor. The whole thing is metaphor. And so, yeah, things just transition kind of seamlessly without you being aware that things are changing. And that throws a lot of people. And again, a lot of people that I think don't watch a lot of movies. Like if you only kind of watch your usual like Hollywood fanfare and then you're watching this movie, it's like probably nonsense, honestly. Like to even acknowledge or to even understand that that's what a movie is doing, which you were able to, which is good, I think gives you some framework for maybe appreciating it. But between it not having like a traditional narrative like that and once again, like the overall vibe of this movie is like utter anxiety, panic, and terror.
Yep.
It's just not a very easy movie for people to
It
watch.
was not. I
Um,
think I
but
think that in my opinion, like, so I know that this movie, like, a lot of people fucking love this movie. I mean, we're in that same A24 group, and everybody fucking, it's like very polarizing. People either fucking love it
right, yeah,
or they hate it.
it
But
is.
I do think that, again, this movie was billed as like a horror movie. Like all the fucking
I
trailers
mean,
make it.
this one kind of is.
But I know, but it's like not really, not really. Like it
I
is
mean, some of
stressful.
the way that it's shot kind of is it's not your traditional horror movie by any means for sure, but like even like the camera shots, the way that it's the movement of the camera, and even like the lack of score, like the lack of music in the movie, creates this sort of
Oh, I
tension
didn't even
that
notice
is
that. That's a good
horror esque.
point.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, yeah. And so, because honestly, I was actually reading a thing or watching a video on the behind the scenes, and he did work with the composer, and they were trying to put a score to it, and it was like honestly, it's kind of working better without it. Like this that rising tension that is naturally occurring without the music is honestly better because even like the music was creating a connective tissue that when it's not there, it's just stark. You're feeling more of what she's feeling. And if there's one director among any that I like to herald for, again, what I like about movies is that experience. It's Darren Aronofsky. Watch any of his movies, and you're going through whatever that protagonist is going through. The Wrestler, Black Swan, Requiem for a Dream, like whatever movie you're watching, whatever they're going through, you feel that shit. It's like a very visceral experience, and that's what I really like about his work.
I feel like if you were a normal fucking person who had watched the trailer, because I watched the trailer and I fucking looked at the posters, if you were just a fucking normal motherfucker who was just like, I'm one night a week, that like I got 2 nights a month that I get out of the house, I'm going to see this new horror movie, you would have been so fucking pissed by the time you left that fucking movie theater. Cause like you did not like one, you do not get to shut your brain off at all. Once you realize what it is,
Nope.
literally every line you're fucking analyzing. You're like, okay, so fucking, so like, what is that a metaphor for? What is that a fucking like completely?
Yeah,
There's no like if you can't follow the metaphor, you cannot follow the story, and
yeah,
so it's like it's not a movie that you cannot pay attention to for like even like 4 seconds and still, because then like
yeah. You're definitely locked
dude,
in.
even when you're watching it, like you keep falling back and be like, oh no, it's just a story about, it's like a story about these two people in this house, and then you gotta remind yourself like, oh no, it's not. Like, okay,
Right.
fucking don't move. All right, what does that window fucking symbolize? Oh fucking, what's this? What's the fucking? What's, oh shit? Did she just eat 3 fucking cranberries? What the fuck is that supposed to be? So like the movie does a really good job of being stressful. Especially just like I feel like Jennifer Lawrence did such a fucking great job as an actress in this.
Fantastic.
Um,
Probably my favorite appearance of hers. My favorite performance from her, I think, is this film. She's so good in
I
it.
think I can't even think of it. Oh, the only other movies I can think that she was in was Hunger Games.
Yeah, she was in those. She was in just
Yeah, no,
oh the X Men movies as Mystique.
oh yeah, but I feel like this is like a real opportunity for her to like. I mean, I feel like she just knocked it out of
Show
the
her
fucking
acting
park.
chops.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and like not.
absolutely.
I think a lot of our. I would imagine that must be frustrating for a lot of actors who maybe do, because like right now, I feel like a lot of movies are just like about the spectacle, or like not to take away from
Hmm.
them. Like I fucking love movies like that, but like I feel like there's so many movies that are just like spectacle, CGI, fucking like
Yeah,
action
hard to
heavy.
find a good like role with
Yeah,
performance.
like I feel like you don't get a lot of that, and so I thought she did an amazing job in this. I thought the actor did an amazing job. Um, I think they should have cast the dude who played Denny Duquette as the actor, but that's fine. He should be in every movie. Have you ever seen Grey's Anatomy? All
Yeah,
right, so you know Denny Duquette. What the hell is that guy's Jeffrey Dean Morgan?
Yeah, Jeffrey Dean
Dude, I
Morgan. Yeah,
fucking love that guy as an actor so much. Him and fucking the guy who played Boyd Crowder, whose fucking name I can't remember, Walter Goggins. I fucking love those two. I
yeah,
feel like they would be better in everything. Um,
fair.
but there was a couple of um, I lost my train of thought.
All good.
So what was the like? What was it that stood out about this? Like what that made you want to like have me watch it?
Again, like this movie. So whereas Climax doesn't have much of a narrative, it is still very much like it is what it is. There's not like a whole lot, as far as I could tell anyway, like deeper going on there. It's very much just the experience. This was the experience, but also had the metaphor, and it is like such a unique film in that sense because you don't often see someone just like literally throw the narrative out the window strictly for and like replace it with just metaphor, you know. So it is kind of like a very unique film in that sense. So I was curious to see how it hit you because, as you said earlier, it is a very divisive film. So I just think it's a really cool film to watch. To see a film do something that you don't often get to see. You know what I mean? Like, especially a big budget film like this, like Darren Aronofsky is one of, I would say one of the biggest directors out right now still.
One thing.
And so for someone to,
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
I was gonna say, to take that kind of risk is like pretty cool. Even if it wasn't super well received, yeah, just really rad.
One thing that I think was cool is like, so in the Bible, obviously, there's a fucking lot of characters, but like they just show up for their time and then they fucking fuck off and you never see them again. And like they did that in this
Right.
movie where like the fucking characters are coming in, like the only characters that remain constant are God and the mother. And fucking
Right.
every other character, like they have their time and then they just fuck off and you never see them again. Dude, I thought for sure fucking like Cain fucking kills Abel and then fucking like escapes out the back door, and like the whole time I'm thinking like, oh dude, he's definitely gonna come fucking back and murder her. You know what I mean? Like there's no way that this is just a
Yeah.
1-for-1 of the Bible, you know what I mean? Like that's like
Yeah.
surely that thread is gonna close. But it was not. It's just he just fucked off and then that was the last you saw of him.
Yeah, it was a big commitment to the theme and the style of what they were doing. So, like I said, it's a very unique film in that sense, and that's why I really like to. I always enjoy just discussing this film with people to see how it hit them because it is just very unique.
The one thing that I had a hard time placing, and I also saw a lot of people online had a hard time placing, was the yellow powder that Mother consumes. When she's stressed, she drinks this yellow, like kind of powder liquid stuff. What was your take on that?
It's been a minute since I've actually watched it. I'm trying to remember. Honestly, I'd have to rewatch it again to kind of get like thing. I don't remember that one, that aspect vividly, so I don't have a theory on it.
Well,
but
that's disappointing.
Did you read anybody
It's
else's?
disappointing because I had about 15 minutes worth of material here planned to talk about this with you. So
No, like throw it out there, man. I'd be happy.
So that's like the one thing that so it does not fit the biblical narrative as far as I can tell. And like I'm not a biblical scholar, but I fucking know enough about the Bible to fucking know that like I don't believe that fits anywhere in the fucking Bible.
Sure.
The way that I took it was, so when Mother's like getting fucking stressed out, she like takes this shit and it like soothes her.
Oh, right, okay.
To me, that was like technology, like human technology, human advancement. So like when Mother gets pissed and she fucking throws a tornado at us, like we develop and we always have developed systems to like protect ourselves further and like to keep her calmer was kind of how I took that. But I didn't see that anywhere else. I was hoping you had an interesting take on what you thought it was, but that was.
I mean, if anything, I think it would almost be the opposite because it's like you think of what like Mother Nature would calm her down, it would almost be like the restoring of nature to it. You know what I mean? So it would almost be something like the opposite of technology, where we're giving back, or we're composting and stuff like that, or whatever.
Yeah. See, to me, I was thinking like it was the way that we could. Because she would always do it in response to God and like humans pissing her off. So to me,
Right.
It was like as a way to avoid like Mother's wrath. Like, you fucking build a hut and then you don't got to deal with the rain. And then like, so it seems to you as though the earth is calmer than it was before. But even though it may not be, and like it just covers you, it's like almost from the perspective
Right.
of the person as opposed to this perspective of her.
Yeah, interesting. I'll have to rewatch and get back to you.
Yeah, let me know what you think. Pending. If he does it fast enough, I'll fucking put it into the end of this. All right. So, anything else you want to touch on that? Anything else you think we missed?
Watch it. It's a good one.
So,
make sure you're in a relatively good headspace.
yes, make sure that you're make sure you're not holding your newly born infant.
Yeah, maybe new parents sit this one out for a little bit.
Dude, one thing I noticed, there's like a trend on these fucking movies is babies dying. Like, I don't know if you did that on purpose. Like, you like a lot of movies with dead kids for some reason. Yeah, is that like was that a plan? Or was that like...
Was that what... I'm trying to think what other ones on the list had that.
Well, so, not a dead kid, but the... well, I can't... We can't fucking say.
Oh yeah, okay,
We
yeah.
can't say right now. A lot of
IMAX,
them
yeah, I
had a
forgot.
lot of like kid, especially up toward the top. Like maybe not a dead child, but children who were in peril. Children who
Hmm.
fucking like they all kind of had that similar. All of them except for like they all had a heavy parent, child, or also children in danger themes to them. But we'll get
Uh,
back to it at the end once we're all, and then I can point out to you where I saw
yeah.
all the fucking issues, or not the issues,
Okay.
but all of the fucking
So that connected.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That theme.
So I don't know how to say this next one, so I'm gonna try my best, and then you can correct me.
All right.
Sinadoche, New York.
It's synecdoche.
That's it has a D in it.
Yeah, synecdoche.
Synectic,
Synecdoche.
Synecdoche,
Synecdoche.
New York.
Yeah.
Synodoche.
Synecdoche.
Synodoche, New York.
All right. Worcestershire. Chill out.
I actually fucking loved this movie, and the only reason that it's
Hell
this
yeah.
far down the list is because I thought it went on a little too long. It was a long movie. It
Mm.
was like 2.5 hours long,
It
and I
is.
felt
Yeah,
like
it
they
is
could
definitely
have
long.
cut some of that out.
See, I think the length speaks to the message of the movie, though, so that's why I like the length personally. But I see what you're saying. It does. It lingers. It drags. But I kind of think that's like part of it. But
The
go on. Go on.
I So this movie is about a dude, and I actually have a lot of theories about this that I'm fucking excited to talk to you about. So this dude,
This is actually probably my number one favorite movie to discuss with people. I think because it's just so interesting, and Charlie Kaufman's one of my favorite creators and writers and everything. So
yeah, no, he did an excellent job. Fucking Philip Seymour Hoffman, like, did such a good job.
rest in
He's
peace.
such a good fucking actor and always was. But like, I feel like I never really appreciated him too much until like I feel like this movie really he fucking did such an incredible job.
Dude, want to hear one of the funniest
Yeah,
things? Is as amazing as Philip Seymour Hoffman is, you know, like oftentimes you always remember an actor with like the first movie you saw him
yeah.
with or remember them in. And as great of an actor as he is, I will always remember him as the dude from Along Came Polly, who it's like a dumb rom com where he's a side character. He's like the best friend of the main character, Ben Stiller, and he's just like kind of a dick. He's kind of like an idiot, and like I just always remember him like trying to. There's a part in that movie where he's an actor, but he's trying to pretend to be a business guy for his friend. So he's trying to deliver this like business meeting, and he just like keeps clearing his throat because he is really awkward and doesn't know what he's talking about. And that's like my first images of Philip Seymour Hoffman, despite him being an amazing actor that like kills it in movies such as this.
My when I think of Philip Seymour Hoffman, I think of him now. I can't even remember the name of the fucking movie, but it was about like like basically him molesting. He was like a child molester priest.
Oh, Doubt.
Doubt, that's what it was. Yeah, with Meryl Streep, right? Yeah,
You're.
no, that was a good movie. But that's
Yeah,
the
that was a good
movie I
one.
always think of him in. And then oftentimes, if you just say his name and I don't have a picture, I'll think that he's Anthony Hopkins. I almost just said
Oh,
Anthony
sure.
Seymour Hopkins. So I'll get those. I get those two confused if I just hear their names and like I don't have an accompanying picture. But so this movie was fucking cool as shit, and like where like Mother was all fucking metaphor. I felt like this movie did an awesome job of mixing narrative and metaphor to fucking like really fucking
Agreed.
tell like. I felt in Mother that the metaphor detracted from the actual storytelling because it was so like
Mhm.
he didn't follow like the story at all. He really used the metaphor to tell like if you didn't understand the metaphor, you couldn't follow the movie. I feel like you could watch this movie like 3 dozen times and fucking come away from it every single time with like a different take and like a different outlook on the fucking on like where everything was. So
Yeah.
fucking he's a theater director who just like it's basically about his like there's like I don't know probably like 20 years of his life from when he goes to like being like a young theater director to fucking when he dies, and like it just kind of follows that story, and he goes through all kinds of shit with like love and marriage, his daughter, and kind of all of this like other shit that happens, and he gets this grant whose name I can't remember, even though I fucking told myself that I would not forget the name of that grant. He gets his fucking grant, and he, fucking, someone just, hey, what's going on, Chris? You just totally fucked up my train of thought. So he fucking, fuck, dude, what the fuck? Where was I? Oh, he got the grant. He gets the grant, and then he like starts doing like his magnum opus. Like he wants to make this theater piece that's like amazing, unbelievable. But like it starts like going off the rails a little bit, and he ends up making like an entire like 1-to-1 scale replica of New York inside the fucking of this warehouse. And like super cool, the whole, and like as like that world becomes more like real, his actual life becomes less real, or at least that's like kind of how I took it, is like his life sort of unravels the more that this like fake New York kind of takes on like a life of its own. And so I thought it was super well done. I thought everybody in it that acted, I thought was great. Another movie where they use his relationship with his daughter as a little girl to fucking drive like a lot of emotional feelings for someone who just had a fucking baby 6 months ago. And overall, I thought it was really well done. So why don't you give me what you thought?
Yeah, so this is again one of my favorite movies to discuss, just because it is so out there. Like this is a movie that challenges you as a viewer, but I think rewards that. I think like not to say that like Rubber doesn't, but it kind of doesn't. Like Rubber's like thinking for the sake of it. It's nothing really too deep about it. Like it's a lot of thought with not a lot of depth. It's like there's layers to it, but it's just not a deep. Like you're not watching Rubber for like life truths. Whereas I think this movie is about some of that kind of stuff. A lot of this movie is about identity and death. Really, is what I think the biggest theme about this movie is. And yeah, I just the way it's all presented, the way that the story unfolds, and how it kind of slips into little pockets of surrealism to like make you question like what is going on.
So I'm pretty sure he's
so
dead.
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure he's dead.
Yes.
And because they,
so
is that it? Did I get that right?
Yeah. So pretty much the main, I think, I don't know if like Charlie Kaufman has ever come out straight to say it, but it's pretty much understood that when that like thing hit him at the beginning, like the first like 10 minutes of the movie, 5 minutes of the movie, he died. And so everything from then on is basically like his mind shutting down and trying to process death.
See, I didn't see that. What I saw, what I took away was that like when his wife and daughter leave to go to Germany, after that, like not long after that, there's like they make the first reference about him committing suicide. And then they reference him committing suicide 4 or 5 more times throughout the movie. And then the character that's playing his character jumps, and you see Philip Seymour Hoffman character is like over the body, and he's like, I never jumped, or did I? Like trying to remember. And so when I took away was I thought for sure he fucking Andy Kaufman is a way different dude than Charlie Kaufman.
Yeah, Charlie Kaufman is although both are very cerebral and interesting. So I've mixed the names up before.
But yeah, so what that was my look at it was, and then like you see his, like you said, him trying to like understand being dead, like his body going through the process of dying and shutting down and whatnot, and then like as that's happening, you see the world starting to like unravel. You see him start showing up in like places he shouldn't be, like in cartoons and fucking like on his like his fucking therapist's like website where he's like, she changed my life, and he's like, what?
yeah.
And there's this
it is wild.
There's this one scene, and they did this like a couple times in the movie, dude, and it fucking made me laugh so hard every single time, where he's like, so like Olive is his daughter, and she's like on her deathbed, and she's like, I want to forgive you, but you haven't asked me to forgive you. And he's like, okay, well, I didn't really like do anything, like it wasn't really my fault, you know, so like I shouldn't have to ask. And she's like, I need you to ask. He's like, okay, can you forgive me? She's like, for what? For leaving you? And then she's like, for leaving for leaving you to go have gay sex with your husband, like, and so he says it, and then at the end, and he's like, "Can you forgive me?" And she says, "No." And he goes, "Oh." Just, he did it. He did the same thing with Adele when she was like getting ready to leave, and for some reason, every fucking time it just made me laugh wicked hard. It's like this whole build up, and like you think it's gonna go one way, and then she just goes, "No, I can't forgive you." And he's like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah, man, it is definitely like a string of disappointments for him as he like plunges into the depths of death and accepting of that. Um, yeah, man, it's fascinating. And honestly, this movie is even too heady for me to make full sense of. Like, I haven't. There's so much of this movie you could ask me about that I don't have an answer for, a clear answer for, because it is just it's funny. Somebody in the chat just mentioned that Charlie Kaufman also did adaptation. So he wrote adaptation, but he didn't direct it. And I think this is the difference between when he is in full creative control versus just a writer. When he is writing, but like Spike Jonze rather, is directing or somebody, I feel like they kind of filter his crazy into a more like
palatable,
easily digestible, film and story. Not to say better, but it's definitely like when you watch that movie, even that one is a little challenging, but you can still follow it a lot easier. But when he's writing and directing, my man is unhinged in the best way possible. So yeah, he did this one. He did a stop motion film called Anna Mona Lisa. And then most recently on Netflix, he did a film called I'm Thinking of Ending Things. And all have the same kind of, blend of surrealism and kind of symbolism, metaphors, and, deep depths for what it's trying to discuss.
What did you think? So one of the characters, she like lives in a house that's just on fire.
Yeah.
Like, what did you think that was supposed to? Because that was something I was struggling with. I like did not get that at all. I don't know if I'm just stupid or what, but like the house on.
No, I think. Yeah, I just think again, I think a lot of the film is just challenging. There's so much to parse through that I think you can always get things like I always took that as somebody kind of settling, right? It's like you're getting a bit older, you're kind of settling for something you didn't quite think, and what you were hoping for. So even as the perspective of the main character, he's like just seeing everything kind of nothing's quite working out for anybody around him. It's just like, or at least the people that are closest to him, even his wife who left him is doing better, but he and the people around him are just like settling, and everything's kind of like slowly falling apart. Or in her case, it's lighting on fire. It's her house is going up in flames.
Her house is just always on fire. I was like, what the?
Yeah.
And then like they just do it so casually, like they're walking through, and
yeah,
like
the way she acknowledges it.
The rest of the movie doesn't have anything that's that quite that obvious. You know what I mean? So it's like, it fucking. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, surely they're talking about something other than like they're just the house is on fire, but they weren't. It was just and then it eventually kills her, and they come and they're like, we don't know what killed her. It must probably just the smoke inhalation. Like that fucking kills her. I did like their love story though, those two.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like, man, it's just such a complex film. I really like. It's one of the movies where honestly, I feel like even knowing that I don't fully understand what he's trying to say, it's still just so. It's like a feast that like I will probably never really like finish eating, but I love digesting. I love picking at it.
How many times have you watched the film?
Probably watch it like 6 times or so. It's definitely a hard movie to just put on like, oh, I'm just chilling, let me throw that on. But it's a movie that I do love to show people. So like if I'm hanging with somebody who hasn't seen it, I'm like, oh, if you got some time and feel like questioning your fucking mortality and meaning of life and death, let's watch this movie.
I thought it was funny they used the like how he's like there's a scene where like his wife that he hasn't talked to in fucking like 6 or 7 years at this point, like sends him a letter that's just like, don't read Olive's journal, or Olive wants you to say like, don't read her journal. And then like she moved out when she was like a little kid, and she's like 12 now, and he just like goes in her room and pulls out this journal that's like fucking like up to date, the
whole concept of time even is just oddly moving in this movie, which is like pretty crazy.
But again, with the fucking kid, she fucking. Oh, did he do Being John Malkovich?
So he wrote Being John Malkovich, but Spike Jonze directed. Same thing with adaptation.
Gotcha.
And he actually wrote himself into adaptation. If you've read that or if you've seen that movie, Charlie Kaufman is a character in that movie.
I've never seen the movie. I did see Being John Malkovich though.
Yeah,
which was a great movie.
Again, it's like it's a great mind fuck, but again, through the lens of Spike Jones, it's like a more digestible film by far. Still crazy, but definitely you can watch that and be like, I think I kind of got what was going on. Whereas this movie, you can watch as a first watch and be like, I don't really know what the fuck I just watched.
I did think that he did a really good job of closing everything up. I really like the ending where like it's the last thing you hear is like the director that has taken his place be like die, and he fucking dies.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why everybody else died. That was weird. Just like,
Well, I mean, I kind of think that everybody was him at that point. I think that's the whole idea is like everything, because at this point, nothing's real. This is all in his head. He's dying, so everything's dying.
yeah,
Is my understanding of it. It's basically like he's circling the drain at this point, so it's all coming to head. I actually was kind of working on a theory that I think the last time I watched it that what's his name, Harry or whatever, like the actor that is playing him, I kind of got the feeling that maybe he was actually death, like death itself.
yeah.
It was kind of like
That makes sense because you see him like randomly in the beginning, dude. And when I first saw him, I thought it was Larry David, and I was like, "Of fucking course, Nick would send over a movie with Larry David, fucking being like a fucking creep over here in the corner." I do again though a movie where I wanted to bring this up. Olive. So every movie so far, except for Rubber, has fucking used like this child. So like. And like the relationship with the child as like a fucking stabbing point, and it feels like it's just in this movie it felt less cheap because I thought it was better done, but in a lot of these movies it just feels cheap the way they just kind of like throw that in there as like this way to like just fucking stab you randomly.
I'll give you climax probably, but Mother, it's not cheap. That's the story of the Bible. Like that's right in there.
I know, but they didn't have to fucking rip a whole ass baby apart. That's a bit much.
I mean, have you seen Passion of the Christ, Nick?
No, I know. I fucking got my first communion. I ate that baby in real life. Let me tell you.
There you go.
It's fucking not that good. I did like the scene where she was like a stripper and he's fucking like banging on the screen and he's like, "It's daddy. It's daddy." Fucking no, they did a really good job. I really enjoyed it. Definitely fucking if you're gonna watch it, like set some time aside, because that actually took me the longest to get through because I couldn't.
Oh yeah.
Because one, it was so fucking long. It was like 2.5 hours long, but also because like I couldn't I couldn't multitask. I had to fucking watch it, and I could not fucking break away from it. But I did find myself like getting sucked into it.
Yeah, I mean, he's like I really love, phenomenal writer, but thankfully his skills as a director are on point. I mean, his cinematography and everything is always really good. All his movies are absolutely gorgeous. So, and obviously the actors that he chooses are like I've never seen anybody miscast. They always do such a great job. So, it is very engrossing, his films.
All right. So, anything else you want to bring up about that?
Once again, watch it. It's pretty much gonna be my go-to for all of my things because again, all these movies are these aren't necessarily my top 10 favorite go-to films, but they are 10 films that I think everyone should watch. To like, as you said, like they each have a very unique style that I think there aren't a lot of movies that are too similar to like them, and I think especially if you are not an adventurous movie watcher, if you were to pop any of these on, it would give you a challenging watch, but a rewarding one, in my opinion.
I think this movie is probably the most approachable, even though it's the weirdest, because I think you could watch this and just like enjoy the weirdness of it. Like like as Rubber, I felt like was pretentious and was very like, oh look at what I'm doing. Oh, I'm doing something I'm not supposed to be doing over here. I think that this movie is the one that you could watch and just like enjoy it and be like, oh, that was fucking weird, and not.
I think two after this one, I think would be my go-to for that personally. But
all right, well, we're not up to that yet, so they don't know what that is.
Yeah. All right, we're
so far.
Okay.
Eternal Happiness of a Spotless Mind was a great movie.
Yeah, he I believe wrote that as well, but he didn't direct that one either.
It was. According to Chris Dreyer, it was Michael Gondry.
Yeah, I thought so. I think it's pronounced Michelle.
Michelle? Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Yeah, but it is a man, though.
Sorry, Michelle. I actually really like that movie a lot. But although I feel like
Phenomenal movie.
it's one of those movies that like got like it was like the first movie that everybody discovered that wasn't like a fucking like
Yeah.
little kid movie, and then so now it's like kind of douchey to like it.
Yeah, it definitely has that. Like a lot of like people that aren't into indie movies will be like, "Oh, I've seen this movie, so I like indie movies." It's like, okay, man, relax.
Yeah, it feels like when a philosophy major likes Nietzsche, you know? It's like
Yeah, exactly.
it's like yeah, of course you fucking do because you made it through the first semester.
Yeah, right, exactly.
All right, so next up is Green Room. And I thought this movie was super good. So this is about like a punk rock band that goes to like a skinhead bar and then basically witnesses a murder and fucking then they're like being held there by Captain Picard. So fucking one thing I fucking dude, tell me like his character is literally just Picard but a Nazi. It's like literally
No, man, he's way
Or-
more like menacing.
or
and
Professor
dark.
X. It's like Professor X, fucking Picard, and this Nazi. Like it's like those are his three. There's just three fucking things. But there was a few points. So first of all, when they sang, so like, band ends up going on. They're on tour. They fucking end up in. Like a place where nobody shows up, the show gets shut down, so they play like this pizza parlor, they get like $6. And the promoter's like is a fucking like high school kid and he's like, yo, sorry about that. And they're like, fuck you. And he's like, well, let me call up my cousin and see what we can do. And see if we can get you like a showdown there. So right off the bat, and then he's like, oh, but it's like a skinhead place, so like be cautious. So, like, this is not just a skinhead place. This is, like, a full-on skinhead fucking bar. Like, there's, like, swastikas and shit, like, hanging up in the fucking... So, like... Oh, I don't think you can say swastikas on YouTube, so I apologize, YouTube. Well... But, like... Places like that just don't have random fucking bands just show up to fucking play. Like,
Yeah, no.
so, like, even if they have, like, an in from your fucking cousin and fucking, like, random fucking bands aren't just showing up at, like... super like Nazi bars to just play and then fucking get paid a ton of money and then leave. It was like they were gonna get like $400 to play this show. So they drive down there and then like it shows them like siphoning gas and stuff, which becomes relevant later. And they're just living like the punk lifestyle. And so they get on, and this is where I think. Like, so the first song they play is Fuck Off Nazi Punks by the Dead Kennedys. And, like, I can assure you that they would not have finished that song. That song would not have been finished. They probably would have been fucking thrown out. Like, it wouldn't have happened.
Physically thrown
It
out.
wouldn't have happened, yeah. Like, they probably would have had their gear stolen and their fucking band stolen, and they probably would have been walking to fucking home.
If they were walking it
Yeah,
up.
exactly. So like just like those two things in that like beginning of that movie where I feel like so doing a little bit of research on the dudes after the fact is like they were like in the punk scene, but it sounds like they were more of like the pop punk kind of scene when they were younger. And so this feels almost like some sort of like maybe like a skinhead stole their girlfriend or something, and this is like their like this like their revenge fantasy. Like when I'm watching this, I was watching this and I was like, this is something that this dude really wanted to do, but like was never able to fucking do. So after that, the movie gets like if you can get through that, and like if you were just part of that, like if you knew like the punk rock scene, if you know those things, like. All of that is pretty cringeworthy. Like, it's just kind of eye-rolling. And, like, I'm a 35-year-old dude now saying this, but, like, when I was a kid, I would have been like, oh, so cringy, you know? And then after that, so they go in the back room in the green room, which is where the movie takes its name from. And there's a dead chick on the ground, and you find out she was running away with another skinhead dude, and they were, like, running off to fucking live with this dude's cousin, who was the cousin who fucking sent them there.
Right.
And like the fucking like the so again the whole thing doesn't that like whole thing doesn't make any sense. Like that relationship and like how that happened, like how they ended up there makes zero sense to me. The only thing I can think of is that they were hoping that that would work as like a distraction, so that they could get out
Maybe.
or something along, or maybe like they could, if like worst case scenario, they could hop in their van and fucking escape that way. And those are the only two things that I can think of why he would send them down there at that like time, knowing all of what was going on. Because otherwise, he's just a dick, which is totally
Right.
possible.
I mean, he didn't know they were going to play the Dead Kennedy song. Had they just played a different set, they might have gotten out of there without a problem. I mean, honestly, the way that it's written, they would have made it out even having played those songs had they not seen what they
Yeah,
saw.
that's what I'm
Had they
saying.
not gone
That's
to
what
the
I'm saying,
premiere.
though. They never would have fucking played that song. That's just stupid. And like, dude, you can fucking like, you can. There's a lot of fucking people who fucking. I've known a lot of bad people in my life, and fucking. I'm telling you right now, if you're looking at a fucking crowd of Nazi skinheads, they're fucking whatever your plan was when you were fucking walking out to that stage is immediately fucking going out the window. Cause like there's no way you're looking out at that crowd and being like, "Yep, I'm fucking following through with this." Like it's just not gonna happen. There's no fucking way. There's like a fucking bar full of 60 of them with fucking like. It's just you know exactly what I'm fucking talking about. So
Oh, I wonder. I've been in similar. We've shared circles. So yes, I know.
you know exactly what I'm talking about. So fucking anyways, they see this fucking chick dead on the ground and they're like, "Oh fuck." They were like, "We didn't fucking see anything. We just want to get our shit and head out." And then things unravel from there. So they fucking get locked in this green room. And then I really liked the instance where the cop came and they were like they fucking stabbed. They like had like the one kid stabbed the other one, and they were like, so they used that as like the excuse for why they called the cops. And so now the cops aren't coming, and like there's this really confusing and convoluted plan to get the kids out of the room. That doesn't like I feel like there was a million ways to fucking handle this, and none of them involved doing what they did. Like,
No one said Nazis are the smartest, the smartest group there.
no, I know, but I'm just saying, like the plan from the beginning. They're like, we're gonna lure them out here and then attack them with a dog. Is what I like deduced the plan was, right? So like, you got all these people trapped in this room with what you later find out is your heroin stash. And fucking, you're gonna like, and so your plan is to lure them out and then attack them with a dog, and that's like, and I mean it's scary. He did a great job of building tension. I really liked he used like really tight lenses. Like I feel like a lot of those scenes you would shoot with a wide angle lens so that you could like capture the whole room, and he didn't. He kept it very like personal and very tight. The whole thing felt very claustrophobic, which I felt like really fit that story.
Yeah.
And then also the like Nazis in the movie were like almost like they all spoke German. They all fucking had German shepherds. They all like it was like there almost could have been like a guy with like a Kaiser helmet twirling a mustache in the back. You know, like it was all very like on the head. And I guess like
Yeah.
if you were never like if you didn't know those. Like if you didn't hang out with skinheads or no skinheads, like maybe it's necessary for storytelling purposes, but it all felt very like on the head and on the nose and like a little bit too like forced almost.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easier to say that from people that have been in the situation or been in those surroundings because, yeah, I think you have to imagine that most of the people watching have never been in those. So I think, as you were saying, like to get the good read on it, to like know for sure what's going on, they had to really like vamp it up. You know what I mean?
But like I feel like they could have just showed like the Swazi up on the wall, and then like that should have been enough for everybody. You know what I mean? Because like at that point, like if I see one of those up on a wall, I'm not hanging out there. You know what I'm saying? So like,
right, yeah.
So like that should really be enough, I guess, in my opinion.
For sure.
I did like I actually thought they did a pretty good job of like with makeup and wardrobe, like making them look
Oh yeah.
like fucking like they looked cool as fuck. Like everybody, I felt like looked like punks and fucking like they all
Yeah,
looked the part. I thought the special effects were actually pretty good. Like again,
yeah, super
all
good.
practical effects. Like fake blood looked on point. The fucking like all the wounds and shit. Like dude, when they fucking like cut off that dude's hand,
Whew.
dude, that
Yeah,
was
dude.
wicked well done. I was super fucking impressed. I did not expect like that level of like special effects. I was taken aback.
Yeah,
I thought they did a really good job. I did.
yeah, man.
It was super. I can't even. I've been trying to remember. What's the bald guy's name in real life? Oh, I guess they're all bald. I
Patrick
guess they're
Stewart.
all bald.
Yeah,
Patrick
I
Stewart.
assume. Yeah,
Dude, Patrick Stewart and like what a fucking like the last person you would expect to
yeah,
fucking
for
be in
sure.
that role. I like when he came on the screen, I was like, what the fuck?
He sells it
He
though.
does. No, he did a great job. I mean, it was just like I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Like I thought I was in a fever dream. It was like it was like, how did they convince this dude to fucking? Because he must have been in England at the time, so they convinced him to fly to Washington to fucking shoot this movie where he's a Nazi, like which is just
Right.
goes against everything that he fucking has ever done in his entire
Yeah, most of his other roles.
yeah
Yeah,
and
exactly.
personal life. So like,
Right.
just wild.
So funny.
Great movie, great acting. I feel like he was really the only big name actor. I thought everybody.
Well, and Anton Yelchin is like, well, was getting pretty big. He was in like the lead kid
Yup.
in the punk band. He was in Star Trek. He played what's his name? The Russian character. I can't remember his name right now. Anyway, but yeah, and he done Charlie Bartlett, that movie. I can't remember the full name of the thing, but anyway, he was like really kind of blown up, and unfortunately, he tragically died. Um, he was getting out of his car to check his mail, and apparently that car or something had like a malfunctioning e-brake or whatever or something, and his car rolled back on him and pinned him to his own mailbox, and he fucking died. He was like 24 or some shit. Insane,
What the fuck? I like. I want to
dude.
make
So
a. I want to
insane.
make a rubber joke, but it's not coming.
Yeah, dude, is like really, and like everybody literally was like, dude, that was one of the nicest like actors we'd ever worked with. Like he like really was like on the verge of. I mean, he was already had a great career. He was in all three, I think, of the new Star Trek reboot movies. Chekhov, I think that's his name, in the movie. But yeah, like he was in all three of those Star Trek movies. He had starred in this movie, which is more of an indie one, but like that Charlie Bartlett movie did pretty well. Yeah, he was like definitely making a name for himself and doing very well, and I think very talented. And sadly, yeah, he died.
I did think that
Um,
the dogs in this movie were super cute, and they were not selling that they were mean. I was watching it, and like the pit bull, one of the pit bulls is fucking. She like runs out, and I was like, "Oh, dude, that dog is fucking clearly like having the time of its life." You know what I mean? And
he's chomping on some
I
treats
always love,
off
I
screen.
love dog actors because I'm always like, they gotta know that they gotta know that they're doing such a good job. Like everybody on set must just tell them they're doing such a good job. Like that's gotta be the best life for a fucking dog is being like a fucking actor dog. I mean now, probably not in like
Right?
the 50s. That probably sucked. But like
Yeah.
today, it's probably a lot better. um,
Oh yeah.
so,
Also, Aaliyah Shawkat is she played Maybe on Arrested Development. So if you're a fan of that show, you might have recognized her. She's really great.
Arrested Development. Oh yeah, okay. That was the banana stand.
She's like, yeah. So like what's his name's George Michael's cousin, the girl with the
Yup.
freckles.
Oh
That was
yeah.
her in this
Okay. I
movie.
knew I fucking recognized her from somewhere. I couldn't remember where.
Yeah,
Um, I feel like they're not. This one's not really as heady or as fucking like crazy as the other ones.
oh yeah,
So like, I feel like
but it's just really well
really
executed.
well executed. Like stylistically super cool. It was very well done. They had like a lot of really beautiful drone shots of like the Washington forest and stuff. And just like nice movie. I really like the color palette. Like they stuck real strong to the color palette, and I thought they did. Like, I thought it was a really really interesting, like fun watch. That was like
For sure.
kind of like made me remember my old punk rock roots. So
Yeah, that was kind of why I wanted to throw it up to you, especially because I think it's pretty rare to like not like I'll grant you that like some of the decisions that were made are maybe a little cringe, but like just like the way that they like the characters acted and dressed and everything, and even just like the whole plot more or less felt very like real. Like that's like what it, what it's like to like hang out at shows or like what
I did like the
do
way
that kind of shit.
the punks like usually in movies punks are just like ah fuck you no fuck you ah fuck everything, but like I felt like they really showed that like
Yeah,
they're really just a bunch of goofy kids who fucking
yeah,
kind of like maybe they're whatever. They're not even they didn't even really have a hard edge to them. Like they just fucking they're just
yeah.
some goofy kids who fucking like a certain type of music and they fucking
Like who? Yeah, who like hardcore?
yeah.
Yeah, like fucking punk rock
So
music.
I thought it was I thought that was I did think they did a good job of kind of portraying that and not portraying them as just
Yeah, like not all punks have to be have fucking Liberty spikes and fucking studs all over every inch of your
yeah.
jacket. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So that was really cool.
I did like that. Good exposure for the culture.
Hell yeah.
All right. Next up we have your favorite movie. I'm sure you're disappointed that it ended up this low on the list.
Oh, it's fine.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. Very good movie. Really liked it a lot. I will say that literally nothing could have lived up to the hype that you fucking have been putting out for this movie. So I feel like part of that is what led to it being this low on the list.
Fair.
There was a few things that I heard a lot of praise for its choreography, like fight choreography.
Yeah.
And I honestly didn't
Yeah.
really think the fight choreography was that special. Like I thought it was
Really, I thought. I mean, it's not like masterful, but I thought it
no,
was really.
I
like,
thought it was
extremely
good, but I thought it was pretty standard. Like I didn't think it was like I was expecting it to be like, you know, like something beyond the level of what I'm kind of used to seeing.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Fair. Yeah. Especially. Yeah. It's definitely not like this isn't pushing the boundaries of like choreography for like kung fu movies by any means.
yeah, no, that was kind of what I was expecting. Was I was expecting like that kind of level of,
Yeah. Okay.
and I will say that the story, the whole thing was much different than I anticipated it being. I was expecting something a lot bigger in scale. And I think I said to you, like, I think they did such a great job of telling an awesome story with so few characters. Because
For
there's
sure.
really only, like, 4 actual characters in it. Like,
More or
four or
less.
5
Yeah.
actual characters. And, like, they told this story that basically, like, transcends reality and fucking, like, affects multiple universes and, everything everywhere all at once. And fucking,
Yeah.
they did it with, like, such a small amount of characters. Um, really leveraging the like mother-daughter relationship in an interesting way. I thought that was
sure.
cool. I liked.
And
Go ahead.
interesting point. I don't know if you read this or not, or heard it, but initially when they had written the script, they had written it for Jackie Chan and even offered him the role.
Oh, really?
And it was going to be like, yeah, it was going to be the dad, and I assume still the daughter, a dad-daughter situation. And Jackie turned it down, and then they went to Michelle Yeoh, and they're like, oh, this was a much better idea. We should have did this from the beginning. Because I think, I think a way better call.
I think a way better call, and also I think the mother-daughter dynamic is a lot stronger than the father-daughter dynamic would have been.
Agreed.
Where
Yeah, no, big time. It's
like
definitely one of those instances where like you pivot because of necessity, but it ends up being the better call anyway.
yeah, no, I think super good. I liked the some of the stuff was just I felt like a little like I know that it's all about statistical improbability and stuff. I thought some of the stuff was a little bit like weird for weird's sake and not just like like with the like Chris just brought up the butt plugs where they like have to like jump on the butt plugs. Like I thought that was funny and it made me laugh, but like it felt super out of place in the movie. I didn't like the hot dog finger thing. I don't know. I just didn't like it. It just made me uncomfortable. And also seems just ineffective. Like the monkey beats the one that has the normal fingers, but I feel like the normal fingers would have fucked him up. I mean, I guess if you try it enough times, then the statistical probability, like at some point, your chances of winning are never zero, but...
And
and
I just love that they did that they brought that all the way to like the have you seen 2001
yeah,
Space Odyssey?
yeah.
Okay, so it's clearly they're like paying homage to that film, and so yeah, it's so funny.
I did like that they developed like how to use their feet, and then like she's like crying,
Dude, amazing.
She's like crying,
amazing.
and then the foot comes up and wipes her tear away. And that,
Dude, so many just little jokes they deliver, in my opinion. There's just like I know a lot of people said that about the hot dog thing, and like I mean I get it. It's obviously meant to make you feel a little uncomfortable or whatever. But to me, like people are like, oh, that joke, like they beating a dead horse with that joke. But to me, it like every time they went back to that the hot dog stuff, it wasn't just like, hey, hot dog fingers again. They kept adding new elements that like made it more and more relevant to the overall
I
story.
will say I didn't see it as a joke. Like I didn't think it was funny. Like or I don't think that they
Okay.
were doing it as like a funny thing. I just didn't like it. Like I just,
Okay.
but I did. It wasn't that I thought it was like a missed joke. Like I didn't. I think that the movie does a good job of actually maintaining it being pretty serious through the whole thing, even though like the
Yeah.
circumstances and like the things they do are comical. I thought they did a good job of like being and maintaining like being serious the whole time. I thought they did a good job with that. Um,
Agreed.
I like that. I like the like overall message of it, and like positivity and
Definitely.
love, and all that good shit. Um, I did like when the mother, Evelyn. Sorry, I fucking watched a lot of movies in the last 10 days. So their fucking names are
I
all
know when you
running
said you were
together.
gonna do this, I'm like, you're gonna watch all 10 of these in the time that we have. You're like,
Their
yes. And I
fucking
was like,
names are all
okay.
running together right now. So Evelyn and Joy, fucking the actress who played Joy, I thought did a wicked good job too. Um,
Yeah, super great,
and I thought the father did a great job too. The
dude. You recognize him, right?
no,
Really, bro? He sounds the exact same, which is so weird because you thought I think for sure when you saw him as a child actor, you thought that's just how he talked because he was a kid, and but he talks the exact same now, dude. It's Short Round from Indiana Jones and Temple of
no
Doom,
fucking
and also
way,
Data from the Goonies.
no way,
Yeah, dude, he talks and looks the exact same. I can't believe you didn't notice it.
no, I didn't. Wow.
Yeah, man, this is like the first time he's acted pretty much since then. He's done a lot of interviews recently where he's like, his career was booming at the time, but literally there was like the only two big things he did, and he was like, there just wasn't any roles for like an Asian American actor at the time, so he kind of fell to the back. He was doing choreography, and I think like other behind the scenes, like I think he was doing some production and stuff like that. But then thought after I think he said he saw or what was it? The Super Rich Asians or Crazy Rich Asians or whatever movie. And he was like, oh, maybe I can start trying acting again. And then this role came along and the Daniels hired him. And yeah, man, he just won Golden Globe and got his very first Oscar nomination. And he's like over the moon. He has a really great touching speech where he's, in his Golden Globe acceptance speech, he was like, you know, I love acting and it's been something that I've always loved to do. He's like, but for the past whatever 30 years, I've been kind of haunted by the idea of like, has my best days was it when I was whatever 8 or something like that? Was that the best thing I'd ever do? And these directors gave me this chance, and now I've vested it, and it's like, dude, so emotional, so
That
great.
is awesome. I also loved seeing, and we get this a lot today, but I really liked seeing like the all Asian American cast.
Hell yeah.
There hasn't been a lot of Asian American role or like Asian roles, period, in cinema that isn't like almost like a stereotype or almost like a fucking like a kung fu master, a fucking whatever.
Yeah, kung fu movie
Yeah,
specifically. Yeah.
like it was nice to just see like laundromat owner, still kind of stereotypical, but like a different thing.
I mean, it's still gonna be real,
Yeah.
yeah, but definitely, yeah, it's not your typical fanfare for
Yeah, no,
sure.
I like that. And like I appreciate that they used all actors who maybe didn't have names behind them, like big names. Although apparently
Yeah.
fucking Short Round was in it.
I mean, Michelle Yeoh is huge. Yeah, and Michelle Yeoh has been. I mean, she's been in everything. She's
Oh, actually, I didn't.
Crouch Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Oh yeah, she's from Crouch
Well, I
Tiger,
know, but
Hidden
nothing like
Dragon.
recently that I know of.
I mean, she was just in Shang-Chi for
I didn't
Marvel.
see it.
She was. Oh yeah, she's all over the place,
And
man.
I knew.
And unfortunately, like often not getting the roses that she deserves. So this has been really great for her to really stand out. And she just also got Oscar nominated, and I really hope that she
I
wins.
know that. I know she was in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but that's the only thing I recognize her from. And that was so long ago. I didn't realize that she was still doing shit. So,
Oh yeah, man, she's been
but like,
still at
dude,
it.
what a fucking athlete! Because in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, she was like, that was like one of the first movies where they did like the high wire stuff, like the wire work
Yeah,
and shit. And like, what a fucking that was like groundbreaking at the time. Especially like I love kung fu movies, so kind of getting to witness like that evolution of like the kung fu movie from like the 70s and 80s into what they've become and how they're like really fucking is really cool to see, and like the evolution of the choreography and stuff, which is why I was disappointed by the choreography that I saw, because I was expecting it to be like another step, and it wasn't, and that disappointed me.
Fair.
Only because of what I've read, not like I went in it
Well, I think
expecting something else, and I wasn't there, so it was not like the movie's fault.
Yeah, because I think that like a lot of people call this like a kung fu movie, or they try to, but it's not. I mean, it does tap that genre, but it is not like it's not by no means a traditional kung fu movie. You know what I mean? So it's definitely not trying to like blow you away on the kung fu visuals. But I think that a lot of people, especially coming out of the like decade or so of like the super quick cuts and like where you really can't tell the choreography, or people can't shoot very good choreography, I think that the choreography was like, we'll say, extremely competent, and the camera work around it was really well done. So like it did showcase the choreography in a really cool way. So it's not like changing the game, but I think it's done really well, because like a lot of fight scenes these days don't look very good.
Right.
And I thought these ones looked awesome.
Right. Last thing, the googly eyes. I really liked the fucking her dad's like love of the googly eyes. If you gotta go deal with something for a minute, you can.
Nope, he good. He just waving and saying
Okay.
hi.
Anything else you want to touch on other than go watch it?
Oh, dude, so much. I mean, honestly, like this movie. All right, so I will say, and I pleaded with anybody who would listen, like this movie almost above any of the other ones that are on this list, even though they almost all are this way. But Everything Everywhere for sure, especially to get the experience that I got out of it, was like a theater movie. Like the sound design in this movie, which you're not going to get at home. Like Nick said, he was watching this on an iPad initially, and I was like, no.
I did say that just to fuck with him. I said that to fuck with him because I knew that Nick has been literally, I think he must have saw this like the first week it came out, and then he's been fucking like just cheering this movie on for fucking ever. And Nick is like super into like, he's like a real fucking movie buff. Like he's like I'm just an idiot who fucking has bad opinions, you know what I mean? Like Nick really understands this shit. And so like when he fucking is like talking about what a fucking good movie something is, I immediately listened, but I wasn't gonna let it go by without pretending that I was gonna watch it on an iPad to fuck with it.
Well, I did have a friend who said that he watched it on the back of a plane thing, and I was just like, dude, that's like the worst case scenario. I'd almost rather you have like a phone and your earbuds in than like watching it on the back of an airplane. And he's like, and I only watched half of it, and I was like, ugh. Like even you're like, oh, I watched half of it. I'm like, ugh. Like it's just such like a.
I watched the first half, and then I watched the second half. I did like the false ending in the middle.
Oh yeah, super.
I liked that. I thought that was cool, and I liked the. I also thought it was funny when she was like, she's like, I saw my life if I hadn't gone with you, and it was so fucking awesome. And like and then like in the next vision she has of that place, like his life is way better, too. So it's like she was also like.
Well, one thing that I really love about that line, because it is certainly heartbreaking, but there's also something really awesome and loving about that line too, because she's like, what does she say? She's like, my life was so great without you in it. Like I wish I could show you, or I wish I could tell you, or something like that. Like it's simultaneously this complex emotion of like, wow, had we not been together, like my life would have been amazing. But who's the one person that she would want to share that with is her husband, right? Like it's this kind of dichotomy of that emotion. I mean, because it wasn't necessarily him that was the problem, it was just where their life had gone, you know?
Right.
And so and the movie has like just a lot of that complexity that I really like about it. I think that bro, what?
He can be on camera if he wants.
Oh no, he's gated. So, so let's see what else. So another thing that I will say. So for sure, I think that anybody who watched this like at home is definitely not going to get the same experience that I would have been like. Because I was begging. All of my posts were like, please go see this movie. Go see it in theaters. 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 Because there's just absolutely no way that you're going to get home and have the same experience that I had seeing in theaters. Because again, like even just the sound design is just such an overwhelming experience that it really is super immersive. Because a big part of this movie, I mean, given by the title alone, Everything Everywhere All at Once, it's meant to feel very overwhelming and like attack your senses. And so like when you're getting to that scene where Evelyn is like the cops are arresting her, and she's like flipping through all the different realities, and the sound is just slowly like raising. If you're trying to watch this at night with a kid sleeping next room, I'm sure you have your volume at like 12 or something. Like in the theater, dude, that shit is like, and like you're getting as overwhelmed as she is, and then all of a sudden it just like drops into them being rocks, and now you're just left with that like rock scene, and you're like, oh man, and like that shit hits just so hard, man. Just that epic contrast from how loud and noisy and messy everything was to like the simplicity of that rock scene is just like beautiful, and it hits you so hard when you're in the theater and you're not distracted by a phone or kids or anything. It's just like, and I get not everybody can get to the theater and stuff, so but I generally am like, damn, like that like the theater experience definitely. So watching it at home, I can definitely understand it not hitting as hard as my reviews were for, but that's why I so adamantly was trying to get people to go to the theater.
One of the I will say, like, as a dad, I thought they did a really good job of that. Like, I'm not like, not everything's gonna be easy. Like, our relationship isn't necessarily easy. Like, we're two people with different opinions and different things that we want to do, but like, we're always gonna be happier, or like, whatever the situation, even if like our 90% of the time we're miserable, that 10% of the time is worth like fighting for and hanging on to. And I really thought that came across really well. And like, as a dad, that hits hard, especially like even now as my kids are very young. um Even now I get that, like, it's not always easy. Like, when your kid, you come home after work and you're fucking, like, my son isn't in a good mood, and he wants. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Um, Nick, mute your microphone because you stepped away and it came back. Um,
Oh, sorry.
oh, that's okay. I just didn't want anything weird, just anything personal to leak onto the thing.
Oh, it's all good.
So yeah, I just thought they did a good job with that, with making it so you felt that kind of, because like, at the end of the day, there's nowhere I'd rather be than with my kids, no matter like what the situation.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Give me one
Yeah, of
sec.
course. And this would be an excellent opportunity to remind you all that Empire Mortgage is sponsoring this little live show today, and we appreciate the fuck out of Empire Mortgage, and we would appreciate it if you would go and get a mortgage through them if you're going to be getting a mortgage there and you're in New Hampshire. Michelle and her team are awesome, and yeah, also, if you don't have a mortgage and you still love me, you could go and just subscribe to my boy Nik Hampshire over on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever fine content is consumed. He's recently making a big change, and he's kind of come up in the last, like, little while, making his money as like a model and a fucking photographer, and he's recently making a big change in what he wants to do. Excuse me. Oh my god. God, I'm disgusting. He's making a big change in his life, and he's going to be putting out content that's a lot different and a lot closer to his heart. And it'll be about movies and pop culture and that kind of stuff. And so if you guys would go follow him and check out what he has to say, I think you guys would find him to be fucking awesome. Anyways, how's everybody's night going? Chris, how are you doing, buddy? The next movie on the list is going to be... Well, I'll wait till Nick gets back because I think he's going to come back. But all of these movies were good. We're just waiting for Nick to get back here. I hear him shuffling around over there, so I think he's coming back. Here he is, the man, the myth, the legend. He's back again.
Apologies.
Hello.
What up?
Okay, then we're back. So, everybody, where can people find you, Nick? By the way, what's your handle?
Sorry, one more second.
Okay. Nick's dealing with some other stuff at the moment, but that's not a problem because you got my sweet, sweet voice to soothe you tonight. So what did one... Wait, hold on. What did one tampon say to the other? Nothing. They're both stuck-up cunts. And that's the only joke that I know that can fill the time right now. Nick, welcome back. Thank
you.
What's your handle? Is it everything at Nik Hampshire?
Yeah, pretty much everything is just at Nik Hampshire. It's Nik. There's no C. So Nik Hampshire, like the state.
Go hit that up. So next up in the list, Pig.
Wait.
Okay,
wait,
sorry.
I'm not done.
Sorry.
It's okay. I understand. No. Let me see. Where was I?
Go see it in
Oh,
theaters.
I guess let me. Yeah, and it is back in a lot of theaters right now because all right. It was just nominated for 11 Oscars, which if it sweeps, so if it wins all 11 awards that it's up for, it will be tied for the most Oscars of any movie.
With
with
Lord of the Rings,
The King Returns.
The King Returns.
Yes.
The greatest movie of all time.
And Ben-Hur. So we'll see.
I actually knew that
but
for
even
the
if
failed project that I did earlier this year.
Oh, interesting. What was the project?
Well, it wasn't really failed. It's just it never completed. We were watching 100 the like top 100 movies list, but then my daughter was born, so we ended up putting it on pause, and and then I started this up. So I might really me and Mike might release it like seasonally at some point where we do like 10 at a time for the season or something. I'm playing around.
You're a Lord of the Rings fan though, right? You've already seen Return of the King prior to that, right?
Of course.
Yeah, okay.
I read Lord of the Rings for the first time when I was in 6th grade. And I fucking never went back. So when I was a super fantasy nerd my whole life. And then I hate being that guy, but I can literally when Game of Thrones was like popping, there was literally a bunch of people who were like super fucking hyped on it who I can remember making fun of me and like picking on me and stealing my fantasy books. And I was like, you motherfuckers. You motherfuckers.
It'd be like that, bro.
I was like, what the fuck? But isn't that kind of... I mean, I think it's awesome that, like, those things that maybe, weren't cool. Like, because when I was growing up, it was like, you had, like, football. It was, like, football and, like... Well, when you were growing up, too, like, fucking...
Yeah.
You know, like, nerdy shit, like, what we're talking about right now, like, was not... And I love seeing that it's fucking, like... Finally at a place where we're getting shit like the MCU. Like, little kid Nick would have shit his pants for the MCU.
Oh, absolutely, man. Are you kidding me? Like, they don't even know how good they have it.
Fucking, dude, do you remember the Fantastic Four movie where they had, like,
I was just going to say, they never watched those old Fantastic Four. So awful, dude.
Jessica Alba as the Invisible Woman. And fucking... Yeah, no, I mean, I love that it's gotten to where it's going, but fuck, I wish it had gotten here earlier. Would have made my life a lot easier.
Yeah. But okay, back on topic. So yeah, Everything Everywhere All at Once. If you can, it is back in theaters because it's doing really well for Oscar season. I would I literally cannot recommend going to see any other movie more than this movie. It is so good in person. It really, I think, just hits you way harder. I think that
he has literally not shut the fuck up about seeing this movie in theater for months.
Yeah, it's true.
So if you're gonna take one piece of advice,
think about people not making it.
If you're gonna take one piece of advice, go see it in theaters.
And so really, I mean, I think there's so many good metaphors in it. I love how, and I will say this too, and I try to make this point try to make this point as clear as possible when I was telling other people. Like, this movie has more or less become my favorite movie recently, but I don't expect that to be for everybody. Like, I think that anybody will be able to tell that it is a great movie, but I will say that the things that this movie do are like exactly up my alley. So it's like it was speaking to me directly, which is why it's my favorite. I'm not saying this is the best movie that's ever been made for everybody, but for me, it almost felt like it was made for me. Like, it's doing so much, it's got great kung fu scenes in it, which I love kung fu movies. It's referencing even like straight kung fu movies, but also like Shanghai or like Kung Fu Hustle and shit with like the over exaggerated like sound effects and crazy like pinky.
Right.
Super
Dude, the pinky thing was fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's also then we get like 2001 homages. You get Chinese cinema homages, and they literally are changing the cinematography around these homages, right? Like, they have the color grading of 2001 in the film grain. They have the lighting of Mood for Love, which is a famous Chinese movie for when they're in that alley talking and stuff like that. And it's crazy. I mean, even like the Pixar Raccacoonie, they have Randy Newman doing the Raccacoonie voice. Do you know?
No,
like the guy who sings "You Got a Friend in Me." It's he's doing the song in the background, and he's the voice of Raccacoonie. That's fucking crazy. Like the details in this movie. Every time you watch this movie, there's so many details that are just going into it. Even the aspect ratio, which is, for those that don't know, is like the black bars on the screen when you're watching it. They change depending on which universe they're in, which give each universe its own different cinematic feel. You know, like when you're doing like the vintage flashbacks of when she's a younger woman or, you know, a kid, the black bars are on the side because it's like 5:4 or even like 1:1 maybe, to give you that kind of like old school TV vibe. But then when it's the main universe, it's like 16:9 or whatever the usual cinematic. Or I think it's a little bit bigger than that. It's like IMAX actually, whatever. And then when it goes to the Kung Fu universe, it is the 16:9, so it is more cinematic. It's just crazy the details that they go into. So like from a filmmaking perspective, it's doing so many cool things. And then the story has all these like metaphors for what's going on. I mean, you have a whole Matrix vibe through it here. Like it's just happening so many different things. And so everything that they're doing, they're firing on all cylinders for. And as someone that is like tapped into all of those things individually, to see one movie like tie it all together, I was just blown away, just absolutely blown away. And I, in particular, like it was already killing it for me the whole time, but that big message from Waymond, where he says, please be kind, especially when you don't know what's going on, really resonated with me because before my grandparents had passed, I had asked them, like, I did a whole interview thing where I was just really curious about their life and stuff. And I'd asked them, they were both probably in their late 80s. And I was like, if you had one word of advice for young people today or whatever, what would you give? And, without much thought, my grandmother said, be kind. And my grandfather said, always ask questions, or try to listen before you speak, is what he said. Try to listen before you speak. And then my grandmother said, be kind. And that's like almost exactly what Wayman had said in his sentence, be kind, especially when you don't know what's going on, listen and try to understand. And just for like, I was already just like vibing with this movie so much. And then for that to be like the big, like crux nugget of the movie to like attach me to like my grandparents, it just sent me over the top. And I'll also say the second time I saw it, I was on shrooms and it was insanity. It was, I felt like the movie was hugging me. Actually, so that scene when they are
Bro, we just told everybody you were straight edge.
I know, this is great. Shrooms don't count. Okay. But I still don't drink or smoke or any of that stuff. So, I was eating portobello, Nick. I was a lot of portobello.
I had a fucking shitload of bites, swung by and got a butt mushroom before fucking going into the theater.
Yeah. But, so I'm watching Get to the Rock scene, right? And, she says the joke and it's like, ha, 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 text on the screen. And I'm laughing. And it feels like what my brain is thinking is appearing on the screen because my brain's going, ha, ha, ha. And the screen is saying, ha, ha, ha. So I'm like, oh my God, it feels like the screen's reading my brain. And then, it fades away and I'm like just dying laughing and trying to catch my breath. And I'm like finally like settling down. I'm like, oh, fuck. And then the screen goes, fuck. And I was like, oh my God. Like, dude, I fucking lost it. It was so funny, man. So yeah, that definitely cemented it out. Like until before the second time I saw it, I was like, that was a 10 out of 10 movie. And then the second time I was like, I think this is my new favorite movie. So I can't expect everyone to have the same experience I did by any means, but I definitely think if you see it in theaters, it will hit a lot harder.
But even
if
you watch it while high on mushrooms, it'll hit a lot harder too.
Also, yeah, it will absolutely hit way harder. As with most things, don't watch Climax on shrooms.
I would fucking. Sure. I think most of the movies on this list you should avoid while watching on shrooms. This might be the exception to the rule, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe.
Definitely don't watch fucking Climax on shrooms. Yeah. I don't even know what shroom. I've never done shrooms, but I can tell you just from the fucking. I probably wouldn't watch any of these. Mother would be fucking awful on.
Oh yeah, just absolutely terrible.
Hallucinogenic.
I would think to your point earlier, though, I would think this is probably like the weirdest but most approachable of the films.
Yeah, definitely.
Way more than Synecdoche. This one, I think you could watch, and even if you weren't picking up on everything going on, I think you'd still have a really fun time. And if you are picking up on all the deeper stuff, I think it's fucking fantastic.
Well, I think Synecdoche, as I like to call it, I think that it's very different, and I wouldn't necessarily like. Anything Everywhere All at Once is super deep, but I think it also survives without that deepness. Like it is just a movie that doesn't have any deepness. Whereas I think like Synecdoche is like you need that depth to it. Like it's like
I got you.
So like I think that it's the most approachable movie where like
for a deep movie.
Whereas like I think you could watch anything Anywhere All at Once and just not even realize there's any metaphor or anything going on and still think it's a cool movie.
Without a doubt. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. All right, cool. I think, I would literally gush about this movie for hours, so we can move on now. But
So, Pig is the next movie. Pig is starring Nicolas Cage. And
Nick
the
Cage, my
first
man.
thing I want to say is that I thought it was so fucking awesome for an actor, like similar to like almost like a Brendan Fraser, although not nearly as extreme because Brendan Fraser got fucked every which way but loose in his fucking poor career. But like Nicolas Cage was always kind of seen as like a joke, kind of like not taken. I don't think like anybody really saw him as like a super serious actor. And then like this movie really gave him an opportunity to fucking like show off, and I really liked that. Um,
Well, that's the funny thing about Cage though. Like, if you talk about Nick Cage in most circles, like movie circles, like he has some really like I think he has an Oscar actually. I'm pretty sure. So he like people know that he can't act. He just does so many movies, and so many of them are garbage, and he's just being super crazy that like it's hard to remember some of the ones. But like when he is in a project that does allow it, like he has had projects like this. I wouldn't say this is like a like oh we didn't know like what's more recent version of that. Um, I don't know when like they'll take like a comedian and give him a serious like Jim Carrey or something. You know what I mean? Where like all of a sudden you see them in a new like oh shit. I wouldn't say this is quite that extent. Like people knew Nick Cage could do it. It's just not often that we get to see it anymore.
well, I think a lot of his like even his more serious movies were still like they still had the ridiculousness of the times. Like
Sure.
Con Air. Did Nicolas Cage do a great job in that movie? Yes. Did
Yeah.
was it? Did he have a mullet and that looked like it was plastered, like glued to his head? Yes. Like he fucking, like I feel like a lot of his movies, a lot of his like stuff that he's done, even though he does a good job in it, it's like it's like a product of the times, and so it doesn't necessarily like translate. I think the most recent thing that I know of that he did other than this movie is the fucking one where he needs to steal it, National Treasure.
National
Yeah.
Treasure. Yeah.
So like,
No, well, even Con Air though is not one I would consider like a serious role. Like he has dramatic roles that are like again, he has a Oscar for best actor in what the heck is it?
you should have
Um,
been ready with this, Nick.
Leaving Las Vegas. Leaving Las Vegas. Apologies.
Okay.
So yeah, like he's done films where he like it's just a general. It's not like a Con Air like action movie. It's genuine, like Pig. He has a genuine drama role, but he just he like floods his IMDb with like all these other ones. So that's more what he's known for.
That makes sense because that's pretty much all I knew him for. I've
Yeah.
never really seen him act like this, so I was really kind of surprised. Like, I'm not gonna lie. At first, I was like, "What?" You know what I mean? And then like,
Yeah.
so this movie follows basically this dude has a truffle pig, and then it gets a little weird, and fucking some like fucking crackheads steal his truffle pig, and then he's like goes into the back into the world. He like lives in this. He lives in like a forest in a fucking hut. He fucking goes into the world, and you find out he's like this world renowned chef that like just disappeared, and he's fucking on the hunt for his pig. And then he runs into like this kid whose father is like I don't even. He's like a mafia guy, I guess. I didn't really know exactly what he. I couldn't tell if he was like a criminal or if he was just like a big wig in the cooking world.
I think just more of that. I don't think he's like he has guys that will like do some I think he's just like a big business guy
Okay,
to the point where like he has guys that will do shady shit. I don't think he's like organized crime connected.
gotcha. Okay,
Or like in organized crime anyway.
gotcha. That was so. I wasn't positive on that. So basically he just like butts heads with this like big guy, and then fucking it has the same ending as the movie Ratatouille, and then he fucking goes back to his hut. And so that was so. Let's start with that. That fucking came out of nowhere because I was watching it and I was like, So basically, he fucking cooks this meal for him. And it's a meal that him and his wife had, and it's like it's stuck in his brain because they kind of talk a little bit about how like food and like memory is connected. But then and then I'm watching it, and when I'm watching it, I was like, this is the same fucking ending as Ratatouille. And then that was what I came away with. So that's basically the movie. So just watch Ratatouille, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, I think there are similarities, but the message is very different. I think between the two.
Yeah, but it's just like the execution at the end, like the simple meal that fucking that like wins over the bad guy is like I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, but like his wasn't a simple meal. It was a meal, but I wouldn't say it was a simple meal.
Well, I think it was. It was just because he talks about how it's like a good meal with simple ingredients that like it was because it was only like it was like roasted duck, right? Roast duck, and then the the salted baguette, and like the fancy wine. So like a simple.
Yeah, but like I think yeah, but like the point of Ratatouille was like Ratatouille is a dish for like poor people basically. But it can be done in such a way that it brings people back to the memory. This wasn't like a poor person's meal. It was like a good meal. Um, it was just like, but the connection to the memory and stuff like that. Like it wasn't super complex, but it was a connection to memory and better times and, reflecting on who you are now to when you had this memory with this person and stuff like
I
that.
really so I just kind of started off with that, but this movie's super good. So Nicolas Cage's character, like you're introduced to like this dude, and then like you're almost like as he like enters back into this world, like the fucking like you're, I like you feel like you get everything about him all up in the front, and then like as you go through the movie, like more is revealed, and like his character is like,
Yeah.
and then you realize that he's nothing like what you thought he was in the beginning, and like,
Mm.
um, and it was just done in such a good way. Like it was so well done. I thought like all the actors did a great job. I thought every scene I felt like, and a lot of these movies I did not feel that way. Is like I felt like every scene was exactly like the right length, like that it needed to be. Like every frame mattered. I felt like,
Mm.
and like every frame, like every scene was exactly as long as it should be. There was no overlap. There was no, like every breath was perfect. I thought the pacing was fucking perfect. I thought the coloring, I thought the lighting, I thought like the whole mood was just super well done. I thought like him being like this like feral fucking dude like coming back into this world that he was already the fucking boss hog of, no pun intended, and fucking like I just thought it was just really cool to see that. Especially as like I'm a fucking getting older like there was a time in my like when I look back at like who I was and stuff and um like it's cool to revisit those parts of yourself and I feel like that's the message that I got out of it. It might just be because that's like my life experience right now is that like um is like that feeling of like being over the hill and being okay with it kind of, you know what I mean? And
Mm.
I thought Nicolas Cage did a great job. I thought that kid did a great job. Even though he was a little whiny. And the scene where he's in the fucking where they go to this restaurant and they sit down and they're having this meal and it's like one of Nicolas Cage's when he was a head chef. It's one of his like old fucking like prep chefs that he fired, and he's like,
Dude, that scene I think is when I mean, I started that movie and I think I was like multitasking. And when it came to that scene, I was like locked the fuck in. And from then on, I was like in it for the movie. And I rewatched it because I was like, holy shit.
so good. That was probably one of the best scenes I have seen in like a long time. It was
Yeah.
just like perfectly executed. The everything from like the fact that he was like obviously like this degenerate looking motherfucker in like this high end like he obviously didn't belong there, but then you find out that like he belongs there more than anyone else in the building. Like that whole like sort of Musashi fucking like vibe that he's given off throughout the whole movie is just fucking so
Yeah.
awesome. The scene is so well done. He's fucking traveling with this little shithead kid who's fucking just like who's like basically just living in the shadow of his dad and like um and again using those parent child fucking relationship mechanics to kind of um like I just feel like it's very relevant and very like universal like even when you like I work with my dad like I worked with my family for a long time and like working with your family is great but you always feel like what if they weren't here like could I fucking do it myself and so like if that was
Sure.
kind of the same vibe I was getting from that kid in that movie was like he wanted to prove himself even though it was maybe the harder road to take like yeah he could just fucking go and work for his dad and everything would be cool but like
No, I don't think his dad would have at all. I think that was kind of the point there was that his dad wouldn't hire him.
but he was trying to prove
Like, if, like, yeah, like I think he's like the dad. I'm pretty sure the dad has a line where he's like, "Oh, well, like I'll put him like at a desk or something at some point." But like he's like this business will eat him alive. Like the dad wouldn't because that was a point in that conversation. Then Nick Cage is like, it doesn't sound like your dad's very supportive, or like it doesn't sound like your dad's a very good dad or something, you know.
Yeah.
And so he kind of forced his son to like go do it himself.
Okay. Yeah. Um, that makes sense.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
that's okay. I was just, I mean, I think, I guess like just like the proving yourself and like the having the like feeling the need to prove yourself, and stand out from your family. I just thought that was just well done. Um,
Yeah, he definitely had that chip on his shoulder and was really trying to do that, and I definitely
the
agree.
one scene that was weird but also weirdly fitting was the fucking like punching scene where Nicolas Cage just like stands there and just gets
Yeah,
punched in the face a bunch of times.
yeah.
I was like, what? And then, but then knowing all the people I know in the food service industry, I'm like, yeah, actually, that probably really happens all the
Yeah,
time.
exactly. Yeah, dude.
But it's really just, it's a great movie. It's a look at the food. Like I think it's a closer to reality look at the food uh, service industry than most people are going to realize when they watch it. Um,
Mm.
and I just very good, very well done. It's pretty straightforward. Like I don't feel like we need to like dig too deep into it. Like there's not a lot to dig into. I feel like it's a more or less surface level movie. Um, that just is very very well done. I thought it was extremely well done.
For sure. I mean, I would say there definitely is a lot of depth to it, but I don't think it's convoluted or anything. I think
Right.
it's pretty. I think what it's trying to say is on the surface
Yeah. No.
there.
I think that
So
there's a lot. That's what I mean though. There's a lot of depth.
yeah,
Like it has a lot to say, but it says it all like pretty clearly. I think.
yeah, absolutely. I really love that one scene in the restaurant is so good with just like him remembering the chef and remembering what he wanted to do and really calling him out of shit. And dude, that guy's performance back is just so good. It's so eerie, like that fucking fake smile he's got
Yeah.
on, and him like trying, dude, all of it is just so fucking good. And just Nick Cage's appearance during that scene is just so crazy. Like it's so good, dude. Because I think one of the cool things about this film, and I think it probably worked against it for most people, but kind of worked for me was like when this movie was getting pitched. Like I try not to watch trailers. I try to go into everything as blind as possible for the most part. If somebody who I like or trust recommends it, I'll just watch it blind. Or A24 group that I'm in, if enough people kind of recommend something, I'll check it out blind. Or maybe I'll see like just the teaser and then I'll watch it or something. Or like if I know the director or other people that are affiliated, I'll go see it. Because I really just like to know, like people's expectations can really ruin an experience for you when you're trying to watch something like, I mean, you were expecting something crazy kung fu wise, and then you didn't live up to that. Had you just gone in, expecting just average or whatever, not knowing at all that it was gonna be kung fu, because I saw everything everywhere with very little information. Like I really didn't know much about it, so it just knocked my fucking socks off. And that I saw it opening weekend, so it was before any of the hype and stuff too. So crazy. So yeah, Pig. It was. I don't think I'd watched much of the trailer of it. But the setup sounds very John Wick-esque, right? It's like, oh, Nick Cage, his pig got kidnapped, and he's on the hunt to get it back. It's like, okay, that's John Wick with Nick Cage. I'm fucking in, right? So like you cue it up thinking you're gonna get that, and it's nothing like that at all.
That is how the trailer kind of set
like,
it up, though. Too was almost like John Wick with a pig.
Yeah. In Nick Cage,
yeah,
and so I started off kind of and it's just like lulling you in with this very, like, his performance is so understated, and even like the story is unraveling just like piecemeal as it goes, and you're like, wow, it's just such an endearing movie. Like it just really welcomes you into the ideas that it's trying to tell you. And actually, it's pretty funny where I think this film, I think a lot of people will find this movie kind of slow, but I think it's very welcoming in its message and in its concept. I think it kind of is written in a way to meet an audience where it's at, to be like, hey, this is the movie I'm presenting. Do you like it? Which I think is actually kind of the opposite of the next movie we're going to talk about, which will make more sense when we get there. But
I really like,
if you want to segue,
when he says at the end of, you find out the pig died, which one doesn't even make any sense, because they were like, the crackheads were rougher with the pig but like pigs are fucking hardy. Like you would have to be pretty rough with a fucking pig to kill it. So that didn't really make any sense to me. But he says like, I don't need the pig to find truffles. Like, I want the pig back just because I love it. And like, there was just some,
because I love her.
Yeah, there was something about that. And like, obviously, it's apparent when he says it that he's talking about more than just the pig. He's talking about like his wife and like, and so it was just like, but I really loved that line, and I fucking really liked the message. Again, like you said, like
the best.
And honestly, like, of all of the movies that I watched, like, story, like as a storyteller and someone who just likes telling stories and likes stories well told, does such a good job of fucking like giving you something that is like you want more. But then when you get to the
Yeah.
end, it's like such a fulfilling ending, and like it
Yeah.
closes up every fucking question you have, and like it's just so good. Like from the beginning to the end, like there's all like you want to keep learning more, and then when it's done, you're like, fucking perfect.
Yeah,
Loved it.
exactly. My favorite line in the movie is in in that restaurant scene, and it's like such a simple line, but like just the combination of how the scene comes about, and then Nick Cage's delivery, and he's like, "We don't get a lot of things to care about," and you're like, "Damn, man!" Like it just hits
Dude,
hard,
you know what?
so
You know
good.
what is so stupid? But in that, I keep bringing up Sinadoche, but the fucking in the movie when the line where he's like, "There's 13 million people." He says 13 million people. There's way more people than that on Earth. I don't know why he said 13 million, but he said like, "There's 13 million people on Earth, and none of them are extras." And like for some reason that fucking like it's such an obvious concept, but for some reason when I heard that line, I was like, "Fuck, dude, that's fucking deep." Like I feel like even a
You
nerd
know,
bringing it up, but it's fucking. I
nah,
was
I
like,
feel you.
"Fuck, that's a good fucking line." Um. Anyways, yeah. So pig. Anything else you'd like to say about
Watch it.
it? This net.
But again, like with that one, last thing I'll say is again, like a lot of the other ones, I think it definitely benefits from sitting down and watching it like in completion without breaks if you can and without distraction. Because I think a big part of that movie is like the atmosphere that it kind of
Yeah.
creates. And so if you're kind of multitasking and not kind of giving them enough attention, I know a lot of people that even tried to watch it and like that, and they just didn't get into it because if you're a lot of this movie is very nuanced and understated, and if you're not giving the movie the attention it needs, you're missing all that stuff. So by the end of it, you're going to get to the end and be like, that's it, you know, because you'll have missed it.
One thing I will say is this movie. If you do start off like if you're watching this movie while multitasking, you will by the time this movie hits the midway, you're no longer doing whatever the fuck you were doing. Like
That's what happened to me. Yeah,
it fucking drags you in, and like it really the storytelling and like this like is so good that you can't fucking help it. I was doing the same thing. I was multitasking, and then by like fucking 15 minutes in, I was like bought in. I was
locked
100
in.
fucking
Yep.
percent in. And as someone that has extremely bad undiagnosed ADHD for many years, who only recently started taking medication, that's not easy to fucking drag me into something like that. So, well done, Nick. A fellow Nick. Fucking, it took a fellow Nick to do that for me.
And ADHD for sure. Like, and actually, the Everything Everywhere is supposedly a pretty nod to like the ADHD brain and kind of how we process the shit and
For
whatnot.
sure.
So
No, I definitely had an easier time following that movie. I think because of like I'm also very like all like when like you were saying like overwhelmed when like if her like when she was like snapping back and forth between the different realities, but like that
yeah,
is just kind of how my life is all the time. So like if
yeah. No, I feel
it
you.
felt very like very I felt very seen.
Yeah, exactly.
This next movie
All right, moving
I
on.
put so originally Pig was above this. I fucking have been swapping back and forth. Really, these two are even for me. But I fucking loved this movie.
Love to hear
A
it.
ghost story with Casey Affleck. I thought it was so fucking good. Um, the only complaint I have with this movie, and before I'll just start with the complaints because there's only one. I felt like it would have been better off if it was maybe like 20 minutes shorter. And
Mm.
fucking, I just felt like when I was watching it that it was a short film that they stretched to be a feature. Because like it barely is a feature. It's like 132 minutes with the credits. I think it's 132:26. So it's like
Word.
barely a feature. So it felt like they stretched a short film into a feature. I think it would have been more powerful as a short film, even though less people would have seen it. I think it would have been better off as a short film. I think they could have gotten. I just think they would have. It would have been better off that way. Casey Affleck.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think, Synecdoche, I think that the message of this movie lent itself to those longer takes in the length of this. So To me, like it does feel long, but it's kind of intentional to kind of again put you in that kind of the experience of what's happening on screen, which may or may not work for everybody, but for me, I liked it, and so I think if this was a short film, it just wouldn't have hit as hard as it did. I think it could have still functioned, but I think it wouldn't have hit as
So I
significantly.
understand what they. So like, I understand that like, basically, so fucking Casey Affleck gets in a car accident, and then he fucking comes back as a ghost, and then he fucking lives, and he like is essentially trapped inside this house, and he lives, you know, like eternity, and then fucking comes back around and fucking starts over again. Um, and so like I understand like with the length, it should feel, but like I'm not a fucking ghost, and you know what I mean, I don't have all fucking eternity. Like
You got shit to
yeah,
do. You
I
got shit to
don't
do.
want to seek out entertainment that feels like an eternity. So I feel like they should have done it a little bit quicker. Casey Affleck again with similar situation to Rubber. Like you like don't like when like acting seems so fucking easy on on like the outside, you know what I mean? But then you see fucking Casey Affleck wearing literally a fucking sheet over his body for the entire movie, and like conveying emotion and feeling and fucking all of this stuff like through the fucking film, like while wearing a sheet covering every part of his body, and you're like, oh, okay, I fucking get it. And like, who would have expected that from Casey Affleck? Like the
Yeah.
less famous, less attractive Affleck brother.
He's actually done a lot of good indie work though. There's a lot of good like if you follow any of his career, this is not an unexpected
Yeah.
film, but I feel you for
No,
sure.
it's just I was one of those things that like again I feel like actors a lot of times they aren't as appreciated as we fucking realize. And you know what? A lot of times actors fucking don't deserve it, but fucking like a lot of times they got layups. You know what I mean? But like this was a
Yeah,
fucking hard.
yeah.
This must have been fucking super hard, and they fucking did a great fucking job with it. I don't know if he had a stunt double or anything, but he fucking did a great job.
Yeah, I did wonder how often it was him in the shoot and how often they might have had somebody else in
So
there.
there were
Because
a couple times for sure I know it was him. Like you could see his silhouette and stuff. I don't know.
yeah,
I feel like it must have been him the whole time.
I imagine because like why would like yeah, I don't know. I feel like it'd be kind of shady for him to be like, all right, I'm on it for like the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes that I'm in the movie, but for the rest of it, get somebody else.
Dude,
Like,
imagine if like he was like fucking having a hard day and he just didn't feel like going in, so he like threw a sheet over somebody else, and then like they just walked on set like that, so it'd be like, and he's
yeah,
like a character
he's
actor,
method
yeah,
acting.
method actor, so like he
Yeah,
doesn't talk.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so basically it's a love story. At least that's kind of like what I got out of it. Well, kind of, and then like you come back around and you see that maybe like it wasn't the love story wasn't as fucking great as it seemed to be at first. Um, and Casey, like I said, Casey Affleck dies. He comes back as a ghost, and he's basically trapped in like this house for a long time, and he kind of sees things go past. He sees his own, um, like the things that he did and how they affected the world after he died. And then ultimately, I did think there was this scene where there's like a party and some hipster who is a douchebag and who you've fucking seen at parties and is like you fucking I can think of at least 2 dozen people who fucking fit this dude like to a fucking T. And but like he really kind of like I felt like he kind of like fed you the answer at the end of the fucking thing, you know. But he says just like none of what we do matters because eventually we're all fucking like dust anyways, and then like even if we're not dust, like at some point, even if you're Mozart and we take we take the Ninth Symphony all the way to the stars and onto other planets and they're listening to it in 10 million years, like eventually the fucking universe will collapse and like it's all gonna be started over again anyways. I felt like they didn't really need to fucking have like an 8-minute speech about fucking like the whole plot of the movie. I feel like they could have used a little bit more. It is a visual medium. They probably could have used a little. I felt they were doing a good job of telling the story without having that guy hand feed it to you.
Well, I almost think like he like you're supposed to think he's kind of douchey. Like I think you're supposed to like almost not agree with him. You know, like yes, what he's saying is technically accurate, but I think you're supposed to be like, but that's why what we're doing does matter because we chose to. It's kind of similar to the everything everywhere message. You know what I mean? Like he's obviously talking about nihilism, and you know this is obviously like a response to that. It's like we find the moments to care about. We find what has meaning to us. Like yeah, we might not be here in a million years, but we're here now.
But I
So
thought they were doing a good job of making that apparent in the story itself. I didn't think that they needed to
yeah,
have like the exposition of it. Like I didn't think they needed to
fair.
have the explanation. Like I didn't think it was necessary. And again,
All
that
right.
lends itself to like that. Like that was 8 minutes that they could have cut out of that movie. The movie would have,
Yeah.
in my opinion, punched harder, and been shorter, and would have fallen into that short. Same with we talked about this the other day, but the pie eating scene. There's like a fucking 9 minute
Yeah.
long scene where she's fucking eating this pie on the floor.
Yo, shout out to Rooney Mara
Dude,
for
she
killing the tape.
fucking that scene, and there's no cuts. She's just fucking sitting on the ground eating this pie for fucking so long. Like I thought there was a fucking glitch in the fucking movie, and it was like jumping backwards or something. It took so fucking long for her to eat that pie, and then she gets up and she like walks off and throws up. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, that was super unnecessary to be that long. So, like, if they had cut the pie eating scene down to, like, a fucking measly 6 minutes, and they cut out that guy's exposition, they could have saved fucking almost 20 minutes of the film there.
Fair. Yeah, man. No, I really love the scene. And what I was kind of alluding to with our discussion of Pig is whereas I think Pig does a really good job of taking a concept that is a little like unusual, I guess, and kind of presenting a movie that covers the distance to pull you into it. I think the Ghost Story kind of purposely almost stays like weird and like you have to like do the work to get to enjoying that movie. Like so many people watch, even people in the A24 movie, like, oh, I fucking, in the A24 group, are like, oh, I hate that fucking movie. It's too slow and nothing happens and blah, blah. And it really, like that movie, probably more than any of the other, like Everything Everywhere, like I was saying, like to get the full effect, I think you got to be immersed. A lot of the other movies, like, you know, Climax or Mother, like they will make you feel those things, but either way, but like a Ghost Story, for sure, I feel like it's easy to look at that movie and see Casey Affleck in a sheet and be like, this is silly or stupid, and nothing's happening, and I'm bored and I don't want to watch this anymore. But if you can, like I watched it. It was like 2 a.m. and it was Halloween time. I popped it on because I thought it would be some kind of horror movie, whatever. It was, oh, whatever, Ghost Story. I've heard of it.
Surprise,
Popped it
motherfucker!
on. Yeah, did ass, and I'm like, and you know, before I knew, and so thankfully, like it was just that early morning, and I was just in the mind state to like accept a movie like that, and I was like, whoa, and dude, for like 2 weeks after, I couldn't get it out of my brain. It just kept like the images and like the message and all of it just kept sticking with me and lingering with me, like the ghost itself. I was like, dude, that was an impactful movie for something that was so like bare bones and minimal. It was like significant, and I don't think that is it doesn't fight for your attention. It really like kind of forces you to like put yourself in a position to get to it and accept it for on its terms. And a lot of people have a hard time getting there, but if you can, and I'm so glad you did, it's a beautiful
Dude,
film.
I loved it. I thought it was just like super powerful, super moving. I thought that like his like, and I thought it did not end the way I thought it was going to. So like basically in the beginning of the movie you kind of see them and it sort of makes their relationship looks like it's like really nice and everything's going good, and then as you like come back around the backside, and he like lives through the relationship again basically, and you see like the warts and the fucking like fights and the like negative stuff, and like then you think about what that means as far as his legacy, because like one thing that they kept doing was this song, like she keeps listening to this song, and then I can't remember exactly what it's about, but as you come back around, it was basically like a song of him being like, it was not a good thing. It was like a negative thing. And like you think about the legacy that we leave behind, and like what are we doing? What are we creating around us that will be remembered after we're dead? And like maybe it doesn't matter, but you know, at least especially when you have kids, for me anyways, it's like I want to have something so that after I'm dead, my kids can look back and have something more than just like, memories. Memories are nice, but they oftentimes make things look better than they are. Like I don't want I want my kids to understand who I was as a person all the way around, not just like the nostalgic kind of like rose tinted version of me that they'll probably remember. Which is why I put
Yeah.
so much shit on the internet, because it lasts forever.
Yeah, there you go. Posterity.
But yeah, I thought it was a great movie. I loved the whole thing. I mean, I of all of the movies on this list, I would say I would suggest people go see this over any of them. This is the
Interesting.
this is the one that really hit home for me. He got to like and there was the other ghost across the way
Yeah.
that he like talked to a couple times. And she had, or I said she, but there's no indication that it's a girl. But the other ghost like says like, I've been waiting here, but I don't remember for who. And it's like, when you look at your life and like how long have you been waiting for someone, and like someone or something, or like you're sitting around waiting, but like you don't even remember what it is that like you're just sort of, now you're just stuck in a rut. And like what can you do to get out of that rut? And then eventually their house is destroyed, and she disappears. And like to me that was symbolic of like her getting out of the rut, like moving on to the next whatever. She needed that house to be destroyed because the house was kind of like what was holding her there.
Well, they disappeared before their house got ruined. I'm pretty sure though, because
No, they're both
there's a
standing
second
in their rubble of their individual houses, looking at each other, and then
Oh, maybe you're right.
then
Maybe
she
you're right.
disappears. I keep saying she,
Well, yeah,
but
because they go. They go. I don't think they're coming, and then they disappear.
Yeah.
If I remember.
yeah,
Correctly.
something like that. But I just think it's really like and like unlike the other movies, I feel like all these metaphors are super easy to just pick up. Like there's not like
Yeah.
at least to me, I didn't struggle to like find the meaning. I felt like they were really kind of obvious and just like nice. Like I thought the whole thing was very peaceful and fucking nice. Like I would like just have this fucking chilling in the background. You know what I mean? Like just fucking.
Yeah.
I really liked that they used the aspect ratio that they did too. We were talking about. I was hoping that I would get to be the first one to use the fancy term aspect ratio, but they shot it in like the Super 8, the Super 8 like aspect ratio, so it's like a square. And yeah, I thought the whole movie was just beautiful. I love the like idea of like if you've lost somebody, like it feels like they're there, but like for some reason you can't touch them. And I thought the like sheet, even though I know a lot of people thought it was silly or whatever, I think it acts as like a really good representation of that, of like after you lose someone, it still feels like they're there, and you may even feel like they're in the same room with you, but like then like there's something between you that you can't get to each other. And I thought that was a really good representation of that.
Like a veil.
Yeah, like a veil or a sheet or whatever.
Indeed.
So yeah, anything else?
No, just watch it. It's a good one.
Blind Spotting is the next one. And again, I really liked this movie. This one is heavy. It's heavy, but it does it in a way that is like very approachable and digestible for everybody. So basically it's about a like black man living through like the gentrification of his neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
And just like what that means for like everybody around them, the people that grew up there. And then also it deals with police brutality. He witnesses like a black dude gets shot by a cop like while he's running away in the back, like fucking basically gunned down in the street. And then he like confronts him later, and it's like super. That's a strong scene. That's like kind of tough to watch.
For sure.
It's kind of tough to watch, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's the whole thing is, with everything that's been going on lately, police brutality like really kind of getting dragged out into the spotlight in a way that it hasn't been in the past since like Like it feels like almost like we're living through like the Rodney King fucking situation. Like that's like the first thing I can really remember.
Yeah.
And I think it gives a really good perspective on what that means. And then also there's the character Miles, I think his name is.
Yeah, that's it.
And he's a white dude, and like it gives his. I think it does a good job of being like, yes, we grew up in the same way. Yes, we're from the same place. Yes, all of this, but like, you're white, and so at the end of the day, like, you can take off, your baggy pants, and you can fucking put down your gun, and everybody's gonna just accept you. At the end of the day, like, I went to. You find basically the main character went to jail for Miles, and it's like at the end of the day, like, I'm going to be a felon no matter what, and like I'm not going to get that pass, and like I'm not going to get to like I'm always gonna have to basically fight for every inch that you're just gonna be given. And like I think that's
Yeah.
A reality that as a white dude, not something I've always thought about in my life, not gonna lie. And so it was very interesting to watch, and very because I did grow up as a poor person in New Hampshire, so there was we don't have the largest black population in the world, and so I thought it was super well done. I thought it really gave an interesting perspective, and I think that even if you I think people should watch it. I think it really handled a lot of like big issues in a way that was very very well thought out, I guess I'll say.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, man. I really, that was honestly probably my favorite film of, I think 2018 is when it came out. The lead actor, Daveed Diggs, is actually a rapper under the name Clipping, and he's one of my favorite talents out right now. He's just so talented. He's also in Hamilton. He was also in the TV show version of Snowpiercer.
Oh, really?
He's, all over the place. Yeah. He's like the lead dude of Snowpiercer, the show.
I never saw the show. I only saw
He's
the
amazing.
movie.
Yeah. Yeah, the movie's awesome. The show, I still need to finish it, but it was pretty good when I was watching it. So, yeah, he's just dope, man. And I thought, like, the style of this film was so interesting because while it does deal with some very heavy topics, the comedy is through the roof the whole
Yes,
time.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, it is hysterical and just so stylized in a fun way. I really love how hard the end hits and that they were able to pull it off because, for those that haven't seen it, the end culminates in this very dramatic, intense face-off between him and an officer, and it ends with him, like, rapping at him. And it works. Like, it almost shouldn't, but they're kind of playing with this rapping motif throughout the movie where they're, like, kind of just, like, shooting the shit and rapping, and it's just actually part of the storytelling, what's going on. So as they're building it up, when the climax hits, it's still kind of like way more prevalent and in your face than it has been previously, but they've been building up to it, so it's not out of place to a point where you're like, that was weird. You're like, whoa, that shit was hard.
Yeah, no, it does not come out like it does come out of nowhere, but then you're also like when you're watching it, you don't really, at least I didn't really even like I picked up on it being rap, but it wasn't until I thought about it afterwards that I was like, oh, okay. Like it didn't, like, it was kind of weird, but like you don't realize it in the moment.
Yeah, and I think it's able to do that without triggering a lot of people like that it is weird until maybe afterwards because they've been kind of rapping throughout. You know what I mean? Like Miles has his own little cadence when he's doing the selling stuff, and then what is Colin? Colin is doing these like raps throughout the thing. You know what I mean? Right from the opening scene when they're like rapping on the street, like walking back to the truck, and it's just like kind of just sparingly rapping, and then he's got that scene where he's rapping when they're moving that house, like the old house. And he kind of breaks into like a little bit of a rap, but still like there's no music or anything with it. He's just kind of freestyling a little something, But then for that scene, when it finally hits, like there's a whole ass beat behind it. Like it's literally like a little rap video almost at that point. But it doesn't like feel super out of place because I think they've been building up in a really cool way. And honestly, I think the movie, the way that movie's paced and structured is so cool because honestly, I felt like the climax was actually before that scene. like the party felt like the climax of that movie. Like the party and then the fight that they had, that him and Miles had, felt like the climax, and that the resolution was coming after that. And so for this to go off like that, I was like I was already like, damn, this was a fire movie. And then that hits, and I was like, oh my god, like
Well,
went way over the top.
I kind of felt like, to me, it felt like it was almost two movies, because like I felt like Miles and Colin were both the main character.
Oh, for sure.
And so I understand what you're saying, but the climax for Miles felt like the party, and the climax for Colin felt like when with the confrontation with the cop. And so
Yeah.
like I thought, again, I do understand what you're saying, but to me, I think the anticipation of them climaxing at the same time makes sense, which also sounds super funny
Yeah.
when you say it out loud. But then I think with them climaxing at different times, like it points out that like the two different worlds, that like we were saying, like you can take off your clothes, you can take off, you know what I mean, you can put on a suit and nobody's gonna notice, but if I do that, like everybody's gonna still have questions. And like, so I feel like that having those two, like I don't think it would have made sense for those two stories to come like culminate at the same time, because I think that like Miles is, after that he could have fucking gone back to that party, probably no one would have even cared. Yeah. So like,
Yeah.
and then like obviously it deals with heavy themes. It does it in a really like low key way. Not even low key, but just like a really,
Not low key, but fun.
yeah, like a fun way. Like it introduces
Yeah.
you in such a way as like, oh, I do understand why that sucks. You know what I mean? But like you don't come away from it thinking of gentrification as a joke.
Yeah,
Like
right. And I think I really liked that like they validated Miles' struggles. You know what I mean? Like that identity issue he's facing is real. You know what I mean? There are definitely a lot of white people that do grow up in the hood, and they do feel like that is part of their culture, but also are apart from it. You know what I mean? So I get that, but I think that they did a really fantastic job of like validating it without centering it as like as significant as what Black people are dealing with. You know what I mean? And I think that was really important.
I agree with that, because I grew up poor. I was a fucking poor person. And so like now I moved to Derry, and which is like a nicer area than I grew up in. And it's like it
Yeah.
feels like I'm faking it. Like it legit, like, dude, I ran for town council last year, and like the whole time I was like, what happens if I win? You know what I mean? Like then they're gonna fucking catch on that they accidentally like let this poor person into the mix. And so it's weird. It is a weird feeling. And I mean, in New Hampshire, like honestly, a lot of that, like we don't have the diversity that a lot of places have, and so we do sort of have like this. It's like this.
Like white hood,
Yeah, no, but it's easy to be like, oh, that's not a problem in the country, because like we don't see it. Like that's how I feel
Yeah,
about
right.
like a lot of like New Hampshire. A lot of people in New Hampshire feel like they're very concerned about like immigration and the border in Mexico and shit, and I'm like, that's literally not a problem that like we have to deal with.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a lot of those conversations really like get lost on us, because we're looking at them from a perspective where like we don't. It's not something that we're dealing with, really.
Yeah, New Hampshire is well insulated and very bubble-esque. Like I remember, like I obviously grew up in New Hampshire, and even as a Black person, like, growing up in New Hampshire, I had thought like a certain way, and it wasn't until I kind of left that I was like, oh wow, like y'all are very sheltered up there. And it's funny how like because we have the internet and because we can access all these different places virtually and connecting and see news from all over the place, people like I feel like there was a time maybe before the internet where, and I'm guessing here, but you could say to somebody who lives in Hampshire, like, you don't know what it's like out there. You're in a bubble. And I feel like you would have to be like, you're right, I am. And now I think because people have the internet, they feel worldly, but no, you're still in a fucking bubble. Like people feel like they know what's going on and they're tapped in. It's like, no, dude, like you've been in New Hampshire your whole life. And I'm not like digging on you for it, but you have to like understand the limitations that come with that. And a lot of people don't, unfortunately.
Nope, that's very true. I was one of those people, so I totally fucking realize now, looking back, like the stupidity of what I was dealing with at the time and how it was just a much larger, like it was a scope so beyond like anything it just wasn't. It's hard to even put into words. It's like
Yeah.
it's like a fish in the water, and then above the water there's like all this other shit. Like like in all honesty, I
Yeah.
probably knew like 20 black people my whole life.
Right.
Like fucking it's not so like for me to now sit back and be like, well, if black people just would be nicer to the police, like doesn't fucking make any sense because and again in New Hampshire, like I don't know if we have a problem with police brutality or not. I've never like consciously dealt with that. I know that there's some shit that goes down in fucking Valley Street that is like inhuman in fucking third world. But like I think on the average, like there's not a lot of people getting gunned down by police of any race or color in New
I
Hampshire.
had a couple of gun on me, like in Hampshire.
Did you?
Yeah, or I don't remember. It was a really long time ago. I know he at least reached, and I know my friends have that. Like, so it was a sleepover. Me and my homies were hanging out at Brent Ennis's house, and we were at his like uncle's or something. And I had like got up to like get something like a drink out of the garage or something and set their alarm off, like a silent alarm or something, or the alarm is off. Anyway, so a cop had come, and like everyone was there. They were like, "Oh yeah, everything okay? Yeah." There's one of the kids set up, and like I came around the corner, and they were like. And like hand on, and dude, I was like, I don't know, like 14, 15, 16, somewhere around that age. And my man was like ready to go. You know what I mean? I'm just like, dude. And it was funny because I remember that being kind of an early story for like those guys. And I'd had other instances, nothing quite to that effect yet. But, my dad had a similar issue. My aunt owned a house out in Kingston, and they were like the only black people in Kingston. And my dad had gone out to the garage and had set the alarm off, and the cop showed up. And that cop did pull his gun on my dad. And my dad lived there. That's his house, and it's crazy. So there's.
I have a fucking story. So Tyler Nichols was just murdered by the police for essentially speeding, reckless endangerment. He was doing 20 miles over the speed limit. I got pulled over when I was I was much younger than him. I was like 19 or 20. I got pulled over doing 125 or 100. I want to say it was 125 on the highway. I just got in a brand new 125 miles an hour, and I fucking drove myself home that night. Yeah. The cop didn't even raise his voice to me. So like he made me call my mom, and fucking I went home. No, I mean like it's funny. Like I'm sure to you it must sound ridiculous, but like when I was fucking reading that story about Tyler Nichols, I was like, fuck, dude, like. What a fucking different ending. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. When I was like 17, maybe, I was going down to church to see my grandparents. It's like Sunday morning, like 9 a.m. Granted, I'm in Lawrence, but still, like I literally have like a fucking sweater vest on on my way to church. And I get pulled over by two cruisers, two separate cop cars pulled up behind me to pull me over. And a cop comes at both sides of my windows. Cop, has me roll my shit down. First question he asked me, like, your license registration? I'm like, yeah, here. And I go, yeah, officer, may I ask why I'm being pulled over? He goes, obstruction of vision. I had a Pinkerton parking permit hanging from my rearview mirror. Obstruction of vision, he says. I'm like, okay. Very first question he asked me, he goes, is this your car? I was like, yes. Like, this is your car. You own it. And I was like, yes. And he's like, ever been to jail? I was like, no. And he's like, okay. And this is your car. You're sure? I was like, yeah. What are you doing down here? I'm going to church. What church? Third Baptist Church. And this is your car. You own this car, and you've never been to jail. Like, would like ask a couple of questions and then circle back to those questions and like pressing me hard, dude. And again, he's over here doing this while another cop is on the other side, like scanning my vehicle and shit. It's like 9 a.m. on a Sunday, dude. I'm like, are you fucking serious? Thankfully, they ended up letting me go, but shit could have gone way left. You know what I mean? And like, just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and I do. Circling back to the movie. I think that this movie does a good job of like introducing those fucking themes in a way that like even like a fucking 35-year-old white dude from New Hampshire can fucking understand. You know what I mean? So like I think it was super well done. I think the topics are heavy, but they're presented in a way that like the movie is fun, and like all the characters are really likable. you know, even the
I really like.
even the I think even though the cop is a fucking piece of shit, like at the you know, I think they even do a good job of being like he's a human. You know what I mean? Like they show his
Yeah, see, I was just
humanity.
gonna say that. I think a lot of movies, I think, do go like a little hard with the like super villainous cop, which I for sure know that they are out there. But I hope the more common issue is just like ignorance and you know just cops are just not careful and they do not they value their own lives over others, especially black, and so it ends up being an us or them kind of situation when it doesn't need to be. And this I think does a great job of showing that. I really like that. I didn't mean to, and Miles was like, are you sure? Like great going out line. So yeah, really great job. I really love this movie. It's this one is for sure like my top 10, maybe top 5.
All right, would you like anything else to say about this movie? Just watch it. All right. So the final movie on our list, and this is so like I kind of knew going into this one because nostalgia is such a fucking drug. Like that, there was no way that this one wasn't going to be the top. So we watched the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the 1990s, or from 1990, released in 1990. What a fucking movie!
So good.
Even watching it today, like again, we were talking about the storytelling, like an excellent job of just telling like a good story. Like you could take away all the visuals, you could take away all the other stuff, and just like that story was just a fucking good story to tell. The practical effects in it are fucking fantastic. The choreography, like considering they're fucking doing all that choreography inside of a fucking like giant rubber suit, very impressive.
Fun fact, real quick. They actually filmed all the action scenes. How'd they do it? I think they filmed them all a few frames faster, so they could ramp up the film. So all the fight scenes are actually slightly fast forwarded. Not enough to make you like think that they're obviously like it looks supernatural, but it just makes all the action a bit snappier than it actually was. But they still are doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, no, they do. I actually think that makes sense because I was actually thinking when I was watching it that it looked a little slow because again, I mean a lot of that is just like choreography back then, like the style it wasn't at the level we're at now. But it makes sense that they would need to speed it up because I'm sure that moving inside of those fucking suits must have been miserable.
Dude, the suits are like 65 pounds or something like that.
Fuck that. Fuck all of that.
And they were doing like flips and shit.
Yeah, no, very super impressive. All those guys, I used to know all their names. I don't know their names anymore, but super impressive athletes. They were all fucking like gymnasts and shit.
The guy that plays Kino in the second one is I think Leonardo in the suit. It's Leonardo. He plays Leonardo.
Oh really? I fucking love. What's the one where they travel back in time? That was my favorite one growing up.
That's the third one. Oh, it's so bad.
Oh, I love.
It's so bad.
Yeah, but I was a little kid, so I didn't fucking know.
Dude, even as a kid, I like conceptually it was cool, but like they changed the suits for one, and even as a kid, I was like, yo, these are ass. Like Jim Henson was no longer involved, or the Jim Henson studio was no longer involved because Jim Henson. I think personally worked on. Wait, hang on, I don't want to lie. Crap, I can't remember if Jim Henson himself actually. I think actually his son worked on them. I don't think Jim Henson himself actually worked on the first movie. Can't remember.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
I think either he didn't work on either of them. Yeah, I think his son worked on the first one, and then I think he died before the second one came out. I'm pretty sure.
I think you're right.
But it was still Jim Henson Studios for the second movie as well, and then they didn't use him at all or his suits at all for the third one, and it's apparent.
There was like.
One second.
Okay. How's it going, Mr. Porcupine Man? Thank you for stopping by and saying hello. We appreciate you.
Look at this.
Awesome. What is it?
Minecraft.
Oh, I love that shit.
There's a bunch
That's so many skeletons, dude. What are all those skeletons doing there?
It's a lot of skeletons.
How there's so much is making my game lag.
That's crazy.
Like, I did it completely accident.
Dude.
I should have synced.
Dude, go get all that XP, baby.
Just doing this already, right?
Yeah, man.
Go down there.
Like, this is completely
Oh, dude, you're letting the dogs in.
not
Come on, go, go, go.
Oh, flip.
I'm almost done.
Yeah, and then you're going to bed.
It's time for bed anyway.
Then you're going to bed.
Yeah, you guys. It's past your bedtime.
Yeah, he should be thanking. He should be thanking me for letting him stay up late.
What?
So yeah, fucking love this movie. Great storytelling.
Get in bed, and you can stay up for an extra 15. Okay.
There was a couple of weird things that happen, and the nostalgia drug is too powerful for me to fucking care when I'm watching it. But after the fact, I was thinking about it, and like, the one big gripe I have is like, there's all of a sudden they're like communicating with Master Splinter, like through fucking meditation, and to me, again, when I'm watching it, I'm just accepting everything that's coming at me because I've fucking seen this movie dozens of times. I know all the lore surrounding the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It all makes sense to me because I fucking know all of the backstory.
Because you love Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, but if I was fucking... If this movie came out today and I didn't have any fucking history with the Ninja Turtles and I fucking watched that, I would have been like, what the fuck? That didn't make any sense. Like, that makes less sense than all the rest of the movie. And the rest of the movie doesn't make a lot of sense.
I don't know, man. For me, like I said, if I'm watching a movie and there's a rat that learns kung fu before any of the oozes even touched it, I'm gonna say that the mystic art of ninjutsu and martial arts allowing this family, tightly knit family, to communicate via meditation makes even more sense than that.
Dude, I fucking
personally. Like. Let me just tell you, if I had a party over here and they were saying, we found a way through ninjutsu and martial art studies to communicate mentally, I would believe them before I believed a guy who was over here saying, I've taught my pet rat how to do martial arts.
No way. Great, because rats probably can do martial arts if you train them.
To that degree, my man was throwing drop kicks and stuff.
Yeah, I think
he was really...
I don't see why not. It's just rewards. You know what I mean? Got to give them the reward at the right time. I'm sure, dude, you can do all kinds of shit with clicker training. But the fucking my favorite line in that whole movie is like my favorite fucking thing in that movie is like, so when
it's got to be oops.
No, it's when Master Splinter's fucking master's Yoshi is killed. And he fucking, the fucking rat jumps at Splinter, who in rat form, doesn't scratch his face, and then like 40 fucking years later, the Shredder fucking takes off his mask. He's like, I fucking remember that piece of shit rat I cut off your ear. Fuck, dude.
Hell yeah, dude.
That's the fucking best. Like, there's, like, just thinking about fucking. Like, holding that grudge for that long. He's like,
oh, hell yeah,
he's
man.
like, dude, I remember that fucking rat. I'm going to fuck that rat up if I ever get the chance.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, no,
now, dude.
Go ahead.
Oops is probably one of my all-time favorite. Actually, two lines. Oops is one of my favorite lines. Just Casey Jones just very casually murdering. Well, what should have been murdering Shredder. For all intents and purposes, should have been an oops murder.
I fucking was gonna bring that up. Like, fucking how casual was his murder of fucking Shredder at the end?
Murder. Legitimate murder.
And like so gruesome too. So fucking gruesome. It reminds me of like in Endgame when fucking Ant-Man is like stomping on fucking people and like, you know what I mean? And just like super fucking like ripping apart those fucking flying ships and shit. Like same vibes. Like if you could have very easily like added some screams and fucking horror music over the top, and that's a horror scene.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. One of my other favorite lines in this movie, and it's crazy because I have a podcast we call Popcorn and Ketchup where we
go check it out right now. Go check it out after you're done this.
Yeah, right now after. So my friend Jada is on that show with me, and she contests that this joke is in bad taste. And I think it's the opposite. I think it's actually a super smart joke that's honestly smarter than it has any business being. So Casey Jones is worried that they are going to be staying in the sewer. And Donatello goes, oh, I get it. You're claustrophobic.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
To which Casey Jones responds, whoa, wait, I never looked at another guy, all right? Now, All right, so on the surface level, because it is the '90s, most of the jokes back then were like, "Oh, you're gay, ha ha," or like, "I don't want to be gay, oh no," right? That's like the sort of the idea, right? And granted, that is definitely part of it. Casey is obviously a macho man. He doesn't want to be gay, right? So obviously, there it is playing into the homophobia. But to me, the funny and the layered part of that joke is Casey is an idiot. That's the whole point. It's like it's putting this like homophobia in a very moronic character. Because for one, it's not even the right word. He said claustrophobic, and so he's not even getting the right word. And then two, now he's like acting like, oh, I don't want to be gay, or he appeared as gay, but he's clearly an idiot, right? And so, and Jada was of the point that like, oh, it's because he was homophobic that it like that's what saved him by being out of the sewer. But I'm like, no, the whole thing was that he was a scaredy cat and he was actually claustrophobic and didn't want to stay down there. So it was really just his ignorance and being scared of that stuff. You know what I mean? So it's a pretty, in my opinion, layered joke that's actually pretty funny. And the joke is on the dumb guy. The joke isn't, ha ha, Casey's gay, or ha ha, Casey's afraid of being gay. The joke is he's an idiot. Look how dumb he is, and that he's homophobic, you know? So I think that's a really funny part of the movie.
100% agree. I had the same takeaway. I thought that was and honestly, when he first said it, I didn't even get it. Like it took me like 2 clicks to be like, like I thought it was
as a kid, I definitely missed it entirely. I definitely didn't catch it as a kid, but as an adult, I was like, oh shit.
Oh, I mean, just wild. Now when I just watched it, like it took 2 clicks for me to be like, oh.
Yeah, it's a bit. Dude, honestly, this whole movie is much better than it has any business being. This is the Dark Knight of 1990. Like, what the fuck? Like, dude, this movie, like the comics were super dark for adults. The cartoon was obviously a complete rebrand for kids. This movie kind of balanced the two, but definitely was leaning a little more towards the darker, right? Like it's practically a noir movie. Everything's shot with like heavy shadows. Like the artistic creativity going on in the filmmaking for this movie is bananas. Like there's so much artistic integrity in this with just like how impactful the lighting is and the shadows and how well they play off it, and just like the commitment to seriousness they're taking. Like obviously they're having fun in the fun parts, but like honestly, I have a hard time watching this movie with like people that aren't getting into it. Like when people aren't fucking broken when Leo is in the tub, I'm offended. Okay,
when
like,
Raphael is in the tub.
Oh yeah, Raphael's in the tub, yeah, and Leo is like there by his side and shit. I'm
Dude,
like,
the tub scene. I was like, why the fuck? They just like, your fucking brother's dying, just fucking yeet him in the tub and hopefully it fucking works out.
You need some water, man.
Just fucking chuck him in the tub.
But like that, or like the fire scene, it's like they're actually playing these like really sincere emotional beats that I think, in my opinion, play out pretty well. Like more than you would, I think, typically get in like a kid's fanfare movie, you know what I mean? And the score goes so hard. I love the music in this fucking thing, dude.
Agreed.
It's so great.
100% agreed. I love
so
the
good.
Characters are really good. Donatello is more likable in this than he is in the fucking cartoons, because I feel like in the cartoons he was like, I know some people say that like he was like the favorite, but like I never knew anyone who wanted to be Donatello when I was a kid.
Yeah, he's definitely the least favorite. I think. You know who voiced him, right?
No.
Corey Feldman.
Oh, really?
Yep. Huh. Second Goonies reference of the night.
Jesus. Yeah, no, Donatello I felt like was, and even like Raphael and Michelangelo, like I didn't think any of them were like, it was more like the comic books where they were all kind of like a little bit more similar than where the cartoon really tried to like make Mikey the fucking heel, or the butt end of the joke, and Ralph was the asshole, and like really I felt like they did more like the comic book where like they all had like all those emotions, and like I thought they fucking did a great job of conveying those. I thought they
dude, even that scene of like Raphael and the Raphael after he lost his eye and he goes to talk to Splinter, like what it's like, it's such a like the lighting in that scene is so good, and also like they're flexing so hard because like normally when you're doing like costuming and monsters or whatever, you would really like keep the camera kind of far away from to like avoid any of that issues, and they are up fucking close. They could do that because of the way they lit it, but so fucking cool how well the lighting worked with the camera and then in the special effects.
And a lot of the jokes, like when like were very like New York. So like when
Oh
when
yeah.
the fucking cab hits and he's like, I don't know, it was a giant turtle. You're going to LaGuardia, right?
LaGuardia, right? Yeah. And the guy in the cab is the guy that voices Raphael.
Dude, you have so much fucking shit going on right now. How do you have all
I
this?
love it. I love Ninja
How
Turtles.
do you have all this knowledge up there? But yeah, no, I definitely, I knew going into it that this was gonna be my favorite movie just because, like, again, all the story, all the fucking whatever, like, there's like a couple movies that, and this is one of them that just will never be able to fucking outpace like the nostalgia factor. Like it'd be like putting it up against fucking A New Hope. Like
Yeah.
A New Hope is almost always gonna come on top of any movie ever.
I honestly, I don't even like when people ask for my favorite movies. I never even think to add Star Wars movies because it's Star Wars. It's a whole. It's not even a movie. It's like a lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't fit into a movie category. So none of the Star Wars movies make my top 10 movies of all time. They are just their own.
That makes sense. I think the one movie that I would put for the Star Wars in the top would be Empire Strikes Back. Just because I feel like it's just like I think it stands out even amongst the Star Wars movies. But
Oh, for sure. So, question: have you shown your kid this movie yet? How old is your son?
He actually watched the back half of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with me. So he's 6. He doesn't really watch movies. He doesn't really have the like he's fucking crazy. He's like got so much energy, dude. He's fucking like jumping all over the walls and shit. He's fucking but like he just kind of started getting into characters. Or not like just like I would say like the last year, like he's starting to like understand like Spider-Man, Batman,
Sweet.
Paw Patrol, like liking characters and like various things. So it's kind of cool to see. So I'm hoping a couple more years we're gonna start fucking slow feeding him some of the fucking classics and see what I can get him hooked into.
When do you think you'll introduce him to Star Wars, and which films will you start with?
So I'll probably go against all my best advice, and I'll probably start the Star Wars movies with. Oh, I don't know. I would probably just start him with the Clone Wars.
Really?
Yeah, and then fucking
Nah, dude, you
move
can't.
into the movies.
If you start in the prequels, then the plot twist of an Empire is moot. You already know.
I would start him with the cartoon because it's going to be more about developing.
Oh, the cartoon.
Yeah, the Clone Wars cartoon. I would start him with the cartoon because one, he's a kid, so like it's going to be more digestible, and like those were really well done, but they also stick to like the story. So I'll probably start him with those, and then I would do publish order. Like if he was interested.
Fair. Okay, I can maybe see that.
And then I would just not show him the last 3.
We'll have to have another combo about the last 3. I have a lot of thoughts on it.
But yeah, I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's a hard one to beat. I fucking
Yeah, it was honestly, it was like a curveball for obviously the rest of this list. Like it does not fit into anywhere among any of these other movies. But in any conversation of like favorite movies or ones that I watch a lot or like to talk about, like I will gush about that movie as much as these other ones because I think like. Nostalgia and fandom aside, I genuinely think it's a pretty fucking good movie. Like, obviously, it is a bit of a kid's movie, so there are, like, some kiddie stuff or whatever, but I genuinely think, like, anybody could watch it and have a good time.
I don't think it was that kiddie, dude. Someone got straight up murdered.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's the dark-ass movie.
That was a fucking... Dude, when he did that, I was like... I, like, didn't remember that at all. So that was one thing, is that even though I had all these, like, nostalgia feelings for the movie, like, I did not fucking remember any part of this movie. Like, I fucking remembered zero of this movie. So fucking, I haven't watched this movie in probably close to 20 years. So fucking...
Oh my god, dude, it's so good. I watch it often.
Actually, probably longer than that. Probably, because 20 years, 20 years I was like 15. So fucking, I probably haven't watched this movie in probably like 25 years. So like...
Damn.
It was really cool to watch again, and yeah, I mean, I definitely think it stood up to the other movies.
Yeah.
You know, at the very least, like, I feel like it had a lot of heart, and it had a lot of, like, you can tell the people who were making it, like, loved it, and they loved making it.
This was the highest grossing indie movie when it came out.
Oh, I didn't realize it was an indie movie when it came out.
Yeah, so they tried shopping it around, and no one would take it. No one believed that it would, like, you know, they thought, like, the Ninja Turtles was, like, a Flash thing, you know? And so they wouldn't do it, and then this came out and fucking crushed and they were like, "Yo, we got to ride this." So that's why they like fast tracked the second one. They had the second one out by 91, so 1 year turnaround. They put up the second one, and actually, all the toy companies refused to make toys for the movie because they thought it was too dark and too violent. And so there were no toys for the first movie initially, and then the second movie, they got a bunch of complaints from parents and stuff, and actually even Jim Henson himself and the actor that played April were all kind of against the violence in the movie. They felt it was too violent, and so the second movie, you'll note that they never used their weapons. And it is a much brighter and funnier movie. It's way more kid friendly.
Yeah.
But still, actually, 2 is still a pretty fun movie. Like, they still have Jim Henson's mechanics going on, and it still looks great. The lighting is still pretty decent. It's a pretty good movie. It's way funnier and sillier, but it's still pretty good. And then 3 is trash. But
it's like,
we'll have to do that.
You want to talk about someone who fucking had an impact on the fucking like world that is underappreciated is Jim Henson. Because, like,
without a doubt.
who the fuck did anything with puppets for, like, 2,000 years before fucking Jim Henson came around? And then, like, who has done shit with puppets since? I feel like
Right.
everything fucking puppet-wise is fucking, like, we all owe it to Jim Henson. Dude's fucking, like, he's the man. All right. Where can people find you?
Yeah, man.
Where can people find
Absolutely. So mostly I'm on Instagram at Nik Hampshire, N-I-K Hampshire. I've recently started booting up my TikTok, so please follow me over there. I'm trying to push. I've been doing movie reviews, quick ones and long ones. So quick ones are spoiler free. So if you just like trying to get a quick idea if you like it or not, or looking for recommendations, check out the shorties. If you're looking for a little more in depth with spoilers and what I thought or didn't, liked and didn't like, check out the long johns, and I'll have more information on there.
The name Long Johns is also brilliant, by the way. I love it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's a Philly thing, but also, Long John's. And then also I do a movie podcast every week with my homie John and Jada, homies John and Jada, called Popcorn and Ketchup, where we pick a movie every week, and we have a guest on as well. And usually one or more of us have not seen some super classic or indie classic, whatever, and we watch it. And so we compare like the people that have already seen it, what they thought, to compare to new people, what they thought of these classics.
Have you guys done The Cube?
So we'll have to get you. No, we haven't actually. Cube,
dude,
the sci-fi genre.
Yeah, dude. When you do The Cube,
I just rewatched all of those actually.
When you do The Cube, let me get on there if someone hasn't seen it.
Well, the guest has never seen the movie. That's the thing. But if the other people have seen Cube, then we sometimes do bonuses where we're like, it's a movie we've all already seen. I'll have you on for that. For sure.
That's my favorite sci-fi movie.
It is good.
I fucking love that. The first one, dude, fucking so good.
The first one is definitely the best. I watched them all recently, and the first
one is definitely the best, and it's also the first one. It was like one of the first movies where I was like, I watched it, and there was something bigger going on here that like I need to explore.
Nice.
Special place in my heart. All right, my man. Thank you so much. Thank you, Empire Mortgage, for fucking sponsoring this. Thank you, Nik Hampshire, for fucking coming on, for getting me out of my fucking shell and oh, no pun intended.
Happy Black History Month.
Happy Black History Month. And thank you for being you, homie. And it's been a pleasure catching up with you.
Appreciate you, dog.
Talk to you soon.
Peace.